and going to the hospital and the mortuary and then having to bury him. A 15-year-old child, having to bury him 6 foot underground. It was just terrible, mate.
Detective Chief Inspector Simon Wallace says every knife crime is one too many.
Each and every one of those will be ingrained on our minds as a reason why we can't accept any level of knife crime. We have seen a slight increase over the last 12 months, and it's very hard to put a context around each and every one of those, but I think we have to see that over 10 years the figures have fallen and fallen consistently. So what we need to do is redouble our efforts.
And there'll be more on this with Iain Lee after this bulletin. West Midlands Fire Service say it's just a matter of time before somebody dies because of a fire caused by a Chinese lantern. It's the Chinese New Year celebrations this weekend, but the fire service is asking people not to set off these lanterns. Last year, one started the biggest fire there's ever been in the West Midlands. It set light to 100,000 tonnes of plastic when it landed on J-Plas Recycling Depot in Smethwick. Phil Hales is the Deputy Chief Fire Officer for our region.
The Chinese lanterns are more popular than they ever were now, and they get used more. And with the increase in usage, we've seen an increase in the number of incidents, and it's the big incidents, the major incidents, which are hitting the media. But it is only a matter of time before somebody gets seriously hurt or even dies because of a fire caused by a Chinese lantern.
The Labour leader Ed Miliband wants to reduce the power of trades unions within the party. In future, he wants the Labour Party leader to be decided using a one-member, one-vote system. Currently, a third of electoral college votes go to MPs and MEPs, another third to the trades unions, and the remainder to party members. But Ian Davidson, who's a member of the trade union group of Labour MPs, says it's the wrong time to start doing this.
It's not particularly desirable, and there's been nobody in my constituency coming along to me saying at this time of economic crisis what we need is a reorganisation of the Labour Party.
The Canadian singer Justin Bieber has been allowed back into the United States after being questioned for several hours by customs officials who searched his private plane for drugs. It's understood the search was carried out after officers said they smelt cannabis. No drugs were found. The weather, a dry morning with some sunshine, very windy this afternoon with showers and longer periods of rain. Cold too. The top temperature today, only 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. The showers continuing tonight but dying out overnight when it'll turn cold with the chance of some frost or ice patches. The minimum temperature tonight, 2 Celsius, 36 Fahrenheit. And tomorrow, another breezy day with sunshine and just the odd shower. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice. The Voice. The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist.
I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Well, what could possibly go wrong? Before the show has even started, I've taken the radio station off air. Yes, that's a sackable offence. That's a sackable offence. Morning, lots to talk about this morning. And as always, kind of need your input on some of these things. Later on, we'll be asking, are you a bad parent if you go to work? Are you a bad mum in particular if you go to work? Had a fascinating conversation before the show with a couple of mums who both stay at home. And the impression seems to be that if you're a mum and you go to work, or if you put your kids in a nursery, you're doing something wrong. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We're also talking about dogs. Oh, man alive, dogs, really? Why do we need dogs? Let's all get cats and rabbits. That's where it's at, isn't it? But before that, the big story in Birmingham and the West Midlands at the moment is permanent knife drop-off points. It's not quite a knife amnesty, it's a little bit different. Some horrible, horrible knife crimes taking place recently. It's one of those things I just can't get my head around. What do you think? Should we get permanent knife drop-off points? They're going to happen. Do you think they will reduce crime in the West Midlands? And also, what else can we do to stop kids stabbing kids? It's pretty much what it is, isn't it? Lots of ways to get in touch. You can send me an email if you want, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk, iain.lle. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text WM, or you can give me a phone call. This is the best way to do it. Give me a phone call, 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 00
9956.
BBC WM 95.6.
So, do give us a call this morning. I can spend all morning reading out your texts and reading out your emails, and it's nice to get them. But it works a lot better if you come on the phone and we have a right old ding-dong. I think that's the best way to do these things, isn't it? And the big story today is the talk of permanent knife drop-off points. I know that it's been discussed a lot on BBC WM over the past few months. And it's going to happen. Do you think it will reduce crime in the West Midlands? Police have confirmed they'll be introducing a knife surrender in Birmingham this spring as a way of getting weapons off the streets of the city. It's a variation on the knife amnesty, which was called for following BBC WM's knife crime debate last summer. Now, instead of the one-off amnesty, there'll be a permanent drop-off points at community centres and public spaces across the West Midlands. Well, just this week, 2 men were stabbed in Birmingham, one of whom died, and a 17-year-old was convicted of murdering 15-year-old Hassan Mahmood, who was stabbed in the back in a prearranged fight in Yardley. Kids killing kids. 03453 00 9956. Two things here. These permanent drop-off points. Well, you go in and honestly, you put your it's kind of like a big metal bin. You put your knife in the bin and that's it. Is that going to help? Is that really going to help? And what else would you suggest? What else can be done? Why are people, particularly young people, why are they carrying knives? 03453 00 9956. Joined now by Councillor Wasim Zafar, Chair of Social Cohesion and Community Safety Committee at Birmingham City Council. Morning, Wasim.
Good morning.
Wasim, these permanent drop-off points, what do you think?
First of all, can I just clarify something? You've described this issue around knife crime as kids stabbing kids. The vast majority of kids in our city, in our region, in our country are law-abiding, getting on with their life as per normal. And knife crime is not just exclusive to kids. I think it's important that we say that too.
No, but when you hear of a 17-year-old stabbing a 15-year-old and killing him, that's a kid killing a kid.
But yesterday in my ward, unfortunately, there was a 35-year-old being arrested for stabbing a 55-year-old.
You're absolutely right.
So it's not exclusive. I don't want this just to be a target for kids.
Oh, no.
With respect to the knife surrender, I think it's very, very good. But I don't think just having these points in the community will help. I think we need to do more in our schools. We need to do more in our youth centres to educate young people against carrying a knife. There should be no young person in our city, in our region, who has to carry a knife.
Now you said it's not kids, and now you're talking about how we're going to stop kids carrying knives.
No, but you're asking what we need to do more of.
Yeah.
Right. And what I'm saying, what we need to do more of is educate young people in our schools, in our youth centres, to ensure that they don't need to carry a knife. But I'm just saying it's not an exclusive issue just for young people.
What education would that be? Because it's obvious, isn't it? If you carry a knife, there's a chance you're going to get in a knife fight, and there's a chance you're going to be killed. So what would the education be?
Education be that there's no need to carry a knife. I think at times some young people think that carrying a knife is good for their protection, right? And some individuals think that this shouldn't be the case, right? So it's around protection more than anything else. So once you've got a knife and you end up in the altercation, this can lead to further problems, as we've clearly seen in this city, and in particular in the recent events. So educating young people against the need of having a knife is important. I think that at times there may be, they think that they have to carry a knife to protect themselves. That shouldn't be the case whatsoever.
Why do they think that? Why are they carrying knives?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I think sometimes there's certain aspects in the media, in particular pop music or what have you, that might encourage them to do so. I hope not, but there's all sorts of issues. There's these video games that may encourage them. We need to also have a look at that. At the debate that BBC WM hosted a couple of months back, Adrian Goldberg from BBC WM hosted, the young people were encouraging us to have a knife amnesty. They were encouraging us more to have more work in schools and youth centres. The individuals there were even encouraging more stop and search. I am not supportive of more stop and search. I'm supportive of more appropriate stop and search being carried out in certain places that can stop people from and that can deter people from carrying knives too.
How effective, Wasim, do you think a knife surrender will be? Because part of me thinks, I don't know what the statistics are, that the kind of people that will drop off their knives in these bins are probably the kind of people that wouldn't have used them anyway. They've found themselves in possession of a knife. They don't quite know what to do with it. Oh, look, luckily there's a surrender. I can get rid of it now.
If that's the case, that is one positive thing. If somebody's ended up with a knife, they found something, they can drop it off there without being arrested or without thinking they might get into trouble. I think this needs to be a community-led campaign, and if you've got initiatives, workshops taking place in the community, as I mentioned, at youth centres, at community centres, in our schools, when these workshops happen, and if a young person is sitting there thinking, I shouldn't have that knife, at least they've got somewhere where they can drop it off without getting into trouble from the authorities.
Do we need to be tougher? I mean, you quite often hear this argument, don't you, that if you are found to be possessing a knife, that should be an instant jail sentence?
It's interesting you say that. I think there's two sides to the argument here. But I hope a knife surrender will deter anybody. And if anybody is carrying a knife, at least they know that they can get rid of it without getting into trouble. At the moment, there may be people out there who are thinking, what do I do with this? If I walk into a police station with this particular knife, I might get into trouble. So there should be no excuse now for anybody incorrectly or just accidentally or just carrying a knife because they don't know what to do with it. This will hopefully deter them. So I'm not sure whether we need to be tougher. I personally feel that times that the sentencing is appropriate, but in other times when there's other serious incidents, it may not be as tough as it should be.
You mentioned the stabbing in your ward recently. What are people saying there? What are people feeling there?
This was an isolated incident, but my ward has far too many knife incidents than it should have. As far as I'm concerned, one knife incident in my ward is far too many. Is one too many. People are like, the key question they keep asking is why is there need to carry a knife? Why are people carrying knives? And hopefully this again will help. But there is a lot of concern out there. I wouldn't say a lot, but there is some concern out there following this spate of stabbings in the past 48 hours. I think there's been two, one in Handsworth Wood and one in Handsworth, one fatal. And just before Christmas, there was obviously a spate too. So people are concerned. And like I said, one knife incident and one fatal knife incident is one too many.
And you mentioned music and video games. Do you really think that they are such an influence that they're one of the causes for young people to carry knives and weapons?
I think video games is something that keeps coming up and has been brought to my attention a number of times. I must stress that there's been some positive musicians, pop stars who've sent out real positive messages around not using knives. I think Roger Killer is one of them. Apache Indian is doing a lot of positive work in my area, across the northwest of the city. So I think music stars realise that there's onus on them to really come forward because they can attract the attention of individuals who may be considering carrying a knife. But video games, I must reiterate, has been brought to my attention as a particular concern.
Councillor Wasim Zafar, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wasim Zafar, Chair of Social Cohesion and Community Safety Committee at Birmingham City Council. Well, what do you think? More education for young people. Well, yeah, I guess that would... you can never knock more education. But young people know that carrying a knife is stupid, don't they? Don't they? I'd be surprised if they didn't. 03453 009956. He's happy with the sentencing. What do you think? Does it need to be tougher? Does the sentencing need to be tougher? If you get caught with a knife, is that instantly a year in prison? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Can you ever get rid of knife crime? And if so, how? Need your thoughts on this morning, because it's one of those things that it kind of affects us all, doesn't it? 03453 009956. Right, it's 9:15. Let's get the latest travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good morning. Generally, things are looking OK on the roads. The inbound side of the A38 at Bromford is shut, though. It's for emergency repairs caused by some subsidence at the junction with Bromford Lane. There is a diversion for you to follow via Bromford Lane and Heartlands Parkway. Traffic is fairly light so far, but it's likely to cause you a little bit of congestion. As you head to Stourbridge, Racecourse Lane is still affected by flooding between the A451 and Red Lake Road. Now, the road is open, but obviously obviously just be a bit careful as you head alongside Stourbridge Golf Club. The M6 has seen a little bit of patchy traffic this morning, although currently it's not too bad, but particularly passing junctions 10 and 9, the A454 to the Wednesbury exit, the A461. Your match day travel sees Villa fans heading off to Everton for this afternoon's game. The M6 further up is looking fine, and then on to the M62. It's a good 2-hour journey though, so setting off nice and early. You won't find any problems so far. Walsall fans are meant to be going to Coventry. Of course, they're playing at the Sixfield Stadium at Northampton. I understand there's supposed to be a pitch inspection around now, so maybe hold fire on setting off until you hear further word on that. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
Liz, thank you very much.
Did you decide on which post-Christmas diet to follow? Low carb, high protein, or just calorie counting? Well, we've discovered a way to lose weight with guaranteed results. The only downside, it could kill you.
Like, I was dehydrated, my lips were bleeding, I thought I was going to die.
Once you've taken it, it's a completely irreversible reaction. Yeah. There's nowhere to go. It's horrendous.
Inside Out investigates the growing trade of diet pills with lethal consequences. That's Monday, 7:30 on BBC One.
That Coventry versus Walsall match in Northampton. Johnny is going to keep us updated on that. There's a pitch inspection, I think about 9:30, something like that. Look at me talking about football. Wow. There's a pitch inspection a bit later on. As soon as we have the results of that, as soon as the tests are back from the laboratory, we'll let you know whether it's worth jumping in your cars and going or not. Later on, we'll be talking about working mums. Are you a bad mum if you go to work? Are nurseries horrible places? We'll talk about that a bit later, and we'll also talk about why dogs are just horrible, horrible things. Dogs as pets? I don't think so. But before that, we're talking about the knife surrender. Permanent knife drop-off points are going to be set up in the West Midlands. Police have confirmed they'll be introducing a knife surrender in Birmingham this spring. Well, what do you think? Is it going to reduce the amount of knife crime? Is it going to stop people stabbing each other? I said earlier on kids stabbing kids. Yes, and adults stab adults, but it does seem to be young people. I'm not saying all young people. I know most young people are wonderful. Aren't they fantastic? But there are a few. How does someone get into the mindset that carrying a knife is a good idea? 03453 009956. Ranjit's in Albury. Morning, Ranjit.
Morning, you're right.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Apart from I took the radio station off the air later on. I'll be fined £50 for that. I think that's the going rate here, so naughty me. What do you reckon, Ranjit? With these knife drop-off points, are they going to help?
No, they're not. They're not going to help. You know, say a middle-aged man like myself has got a knife and he doesn't know what to do with it. I've got no plans of stabbing anybody, but I want to get rid of it. I might go and take it to the scrapyard, or I might go and drop it off at the police station. These young people, or anybody that's got the intention of using that knife, you aren't going to stop them. Trust me, I can tell you this.
This was my kind of thought, Ranjit, that the only people that are going to use these knife drop-off points are probably the people that wouldn't be stabbing anyway. But Councillor Zafar made a good point. It still gets those knives off the street, doesn't it? It prevents them from falling into the hands of people who might be less scrupulous.
Ian, until society stops being soft, and being realistic, this isn't going to happen, trust me. This one, I spoke to Adrian Goldberg a few months ago when the last stabbings happened, and I told him, I said, I guarantee you, and I will guarantee you again, this is going to happen again and again and again. It will never stop. The only way it's going to stop is you're going to have investment from the government. First of all, you need investment in the police force. You've got to have more of them, pounding the streets where people visibly see them. And then if you've got a good deterrent, if you're carrying a knife, you should be sent to prison straight away for a year. If you need a knife in your industry that you're working for, what you need is you take the knife out of your house, put it in the boot of your car, go to your place of work, take it out of the boot of your car, use it, put it back and in reverse. These young people, every young person that dies, I think, in my opinion, the whole of society's got blood on their hands, and we do need to change it. And the only way to change, you can try anything else, you can try education, They're not. These young people aren't going to listen to you. I've got young children. I can tell them so much. It's like when they say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it. And no matter what we do, the only way is deterrent and more police to police it.
Brandy, I appreciate your time this morning. 03453 009956. Try and think back to when you were 13, 14, 15, 16. I know it's hard for some of us. Long time ago. Try and think back, though. You thought you knew it all. At 15, you thought you were the fully rounded adult that knew everything. You knew everything. And anybody over the age of 35 was old, past it, and didn't know what it was like. You don't understand me. I'm different. Not like you. Do you remember that? That's what we felt. And I do wonder. I remember a copper coming into my school when I was about 15, giving a talk about drugs. And he had a little bit of weed, he had a bit of hash, he had a bag full of pills. And I wasn't even into drugs at 15, but we're all there making jokes and saying, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Do you remember that? So I wonder how much talking to young people from older people has an effect. I don't know. 03453 009956. And I can speak now to Tricia Bergen. Morning, Tricia.
Good morning.
Now, 11 years ago, your son Eugene was stabbed to death, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
How old was he, Tricia?
Eugene was 27 years of age.
Can you tell me what happened?
Well, basically, it was 4 days after Christmas, on a Sunday, 29th of December, and he was coming home. He went to visit some friends and family, his father, just the other side of town, and he was coming home to have tea with us, with the rest of the family, with my new husband and my other son. Spoke to him about 7:15 on the Sunday evening, and he was walking around at the back of the house just to come through the back gate. Didn't want to come through the front because he says that he's got a back door key and he'll come in, as he was a DJ, so he wouldn't disturb coming to the front, but, walk around the semicircle. And, of course, my son never got home. I looked through the window, waited and waited and waited, and this young man ambushed him at the back. It was an unprovoked attack. Robbed him of all his stuff, his mobile phone and his chain round his neck with a cross and money and everything, and then took a 10-inch hunting knife and plunged it in his neck. That was within 15 minutes as I spoke to my son. And that was just only at the back of my house, so near and so far. I didn't know what was happening, and then bang on the door. I rushed out to find out why is he banging on the door, thinking it's him, but it was a neighbor saying to me, quick, there's an ambulance, and the ambulance just arrived. Your Eugene has been stabbed. I just could not believe it, because, I just spoke to him. Just could not believe it. Rushed out, and sure enough, there was an ambulance speeding away with my son.
It's one of the... listen, as a parent, I can't even imagine what it's like to hear that kind of news. What was going through your mind when your neighbour said that to you?
I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I thought he was just not making a joke. I thought, well, maybe there was a little bit of a scuffle, of a little bit of provocation between two people, my son. But my son was never a fighter, and I thought, well, for safety reasons, they probably just take him to the hospital to look him over, not thinking of anything at all, the worst of the worst. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, and I just was in a daze. I was in a daze. I just couldn't believe it. And
What happened then, Tricia? Did you kind of jump in the car and go straight to the hospital?
I tried to jump into my car, but the neighbour that came and told me about it, he says he'll take me in his car. But do you know, I cannot remember getting into the hospital. I remember all what happened. I just can't remember. And my husband, I don't know how he got there, and my other son, I don't know. I looked round. I was in a family room. They put me to sit there with a nurse sitting next to me. And then a policeman came and sat next to me as well, and I thought, what's going on? I've never known this, and I am a staff nurse by profession, and I thought, well, you know, I was in a daze. I just couldn't think why there's a nurse sitting next to me, why there's a policeman sitting next to me, and my husband and my son. How did they get here? What's going off? I just can't understand, you know, couldn't understand, and I cannot explain to anybody that feeling. It is a numb, horrible, horrible feeling, because you don't know what's going off.
And Tricia, if I ask something that's inappropriate, tell me and we'll move on. But did Eugene pass instantly? Did you get to see him before he passed away?
I didn't get to see him.
No.
I think he was still alive, as the neighbour told me. He went out to his rescue and take a coat and cover Eugene. And when the ambulance came, he was still alive. But as they sped off, now, in retrospect, thinking about it, he was still alive, but he must have passed on the way, because they were trying very much to do everything, as they told me afterwards. The knife just cutting one of his main artery in his neck, and he bled. And I believe, you know, in my own nursing experience, that blood, he must have bled to death, because, you know, cutting a very, very main artery in the neck is no joke. And, you know, I believe, and I didn't get to see my son alive, which hurts so much.
Yeah.
You know, and to have a look, and they wouldn't allow me to see him in the hospital, you know.
Really?
They created such a big scene, and I created a bigger scene, because I says, I need to see my son. Because the doctor came and kneeled down in front of me maybe about a couple of hours after, and well, it felt as if it was a couple of hours, but I'm sure it wasn't, because I was waiting there and not know what was going off. And she knelt down in front of me and held my hands, but I knew exactly, because with me being a nurse, I know how to give bad news, because I've worked in hospitals. And when she did that, I just collapsed. When I came round, I says, I want to see my son, and they wouldn't allow me. And the policeman then said to me, it's a murder case. You can't touch him or anything. We'll take you.
Well, that must have been so hard.
That is really, you know, really serious.
Yeah. Tricia, did they catch the person that did it?
Yes.
And what happened?
Well, he went into hiding for about 10 days, and up and down the country. He went to London, and then, of course, some of his family was being questioned and arrested, and suppose he squealed or whatever. And 10 days after, he walked into a police station with a solicitor and admitted that he did it. A year after, he changed his plea to not guilty. And then eventually, after 4 years of the court case being in and out, you know, court case, trial, put off, whatever, he got 4.5 years.
4.5 years.
4.5
for taking
years.
Your boy's
and there
life.
were a couple of witnesses that saw him. What happened? These guys was in court, and they were underage at the time, so they have to give a statement behind the screens, you know. And they saw him, what he did, and he got 4.5 years.
That must have hurt even more.
Oh, I still can't come to terms with that. However, he is still in.
Okay. Tricia, how does... This was 11 years ago. How do you, as a mum, and the whole family come to terms with a loss like that?
To be honest, we haven't come to terms, you know. We are just about... carrying on. You never ever forget. You never ever could, your life could never ever be normal. There's one person missing. In retrospect, my, take on this is I get a bit older. I get old. I have, sort of illness or whatever. My children grow up. They get married. They have children or whatever. I get grandchildren. And then, I die and my children bury me. Who in the right mind, which mother should have to bury a child? I don't wish it on anybody. The family is so... we are so much in grief. It's unbelievable. As a result of that, I lost my husband a year ago. So much stress and so much pressure because he's supporting me quite a lot. I've got one more son. I only had the two boys, and I've just got him. Friends and friends around the area and the neighbours, they have been very good to me as well. They always come by and very good friends, and they support me, and they would take me out and, for a coffee or whatever. But life can never, ever be the same because there's always one person missing. You have like anniversaries, you've got birthdays, you've got things that we used to do, go to the park, go to the theatre. You can't do that anymore. Christmas Day.
Well, especially with it happening at Christmas, that must be...
Yeah, Christmas Day. Painful. Now, with my husband gone, he's died, and then a few months after, my son Eugene, that I've lost, his father died as well. And we had a very good relationship, even though we were divorced. But because I had Eugene for him, we still kept it going very nicely. So he died. And now, who have I got? Just my son here. And Christmas Day is it were four of us. And then there was... there were three, and now there's only two. And I can't begin to tell you how awful it is on Christmas Day.
Tricia, I'm really sorry for your losses, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tricia Bergen there, who lost her son Eugene 11 years ago.
Ian Lee.
On BBC WM.
95.6. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, isn't that a tragic story? You see, and that highlights the pointlessness of people carrying knives, the needlessness. It's not just the person that gets stabbed that's affected. It's the ripple effect, isn't it? It's the whole family. It's the friends. It's the community. Do you know, when I was listening to Tricia's story, I couldn't help but think, what a fantastic neighbour she had. That neighbour sounded amazing. 03453 009956. Tom in West Brom, I'll come to you in a second. I just want to speak to Conservative MP James Morris, the MP for Hales Owen. Morning, James.
Good morning.
James, these the knife, what is it, knife surrender, it's not knife amnesty. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's a very positive step from the West Midlands Police. I think that these type of knife surrenders or knife amnesties can have a positive impact on getting knives off the street, but also as part of an important programme of educating young people that carrying a knife can have devastating consequences, as Tricia was talking about, the devastating impact that the use of knives can have on families and communities. So I welcome the step by West Midlands Police. We have seen falls in knife crime in Birmingham and the Black Country over the last year, but knife crime continues to be a very serious issue in our communities, and any and all use of blades and knives that result in another death of a young person is a tragedy, and we need to make sure that we rid our communities of the scourge of knives.
James, you were a part of the BBC WM debate on knife crime with Adrian last year, and obviously lots of people have called for these amnesties, these drop-off points. Do we know, does it actually have an effect on knife crime?
Well, I'm not sure there's a direct causal relationship. I think it's an important part of an overall programme. I mean, clearly giving people the opportunity to drop off knives anonymously gives them an opportunity to make the right decision to not be carrying a blade. So I think it is part of an overall package. But I've been, for instance, calling for a further tightening of the knife laws, so that anyone caught carrying a knife without a very good reason should be expecting a prison sentence. So I think that provides an additional deterrent. And also, we do need to redouble our efforts to educate young people about the danger of knives. And I think this kind of knife surrender and knife amnesty is part of a whole programme that the West Midlands Police are running in order to highlight to young people the dangers of carrying knives. And, to give them the due, there has been some success in getting those knife crime numbers down over the last couple of years. But as I say, it's still a serious issue in our communities, and we shouldn't be complacent.
Oh, and by the way, in case anybody thinks I'm doing, I nearly said a hatchet job, but that's inappropriate. But I don't want to be spreading fear. I don't want everyone to start thinking that there is knife crime on every corner and every young person has a knife. These are isolated incidents that happen, but any incident is one too many, isn't it? That's the thing.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And as I say, we can talk about statistics, knife crime falling, but that doesn't take away the reality that knives and the carrying of knives is still a very serious issue in our communities. Lots of examples of lives having been devastated by the use of knives, and it's important that young people are made aware the devastating consequences that knives can bring to families, to their communities. And as I say, this knife surrender is part of a programme, but I think we need to be looking at toughening up the knife laws and also redoubling our effort to educate young people that carrying a blade is going to have devastating consequences if used for the wrong reasons.
James, what can we do to toughen up the knife laws? I've heard people say in the past that if you get found with a knife in the street, you should be a year in prison, whatever.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, the government did introduce a further tightening of the knife laws last year for a kind of a new offence of kind of aggravated use of a knife. So, if you're carrying a knife and there's an aggravated situation, you should be expecting a prison sentence. But I've been also pushing and having discussions with the government for a further tightening up of that knife law, so that if you're caught carrying a knife without any good reason, then you should be expecting a stiff prison sentence as a result of carrying the knife. Now, I know the government is doing a review of the knife laws that were introduced last year to see whether or not that's produced further convictions, and I think there is grounds for seeing whether we can tighten it up further.
James, I appreciate your time this morning. That's James Morris MP, Conservative MP for Hales Owen. 03453 009956. Take more of your calls on knife crime. Just quickly, the Coventry versus Walsall game, it's off. There's a waterlogged pitch at Sixfields in Northampton. So if you're in the car and you're heading to Northampton, well, you could still go to Northampton. It's a lovely place. What is it, Junction 15 of the M1, I think? It's a lovely place. But if you're going there for the football, it ain't happening. Coventry versus Walsall, the game is off because of the waterlogged pitch. 03453 009956 is the phone number. Knife crime. Knife amnesty, knife surrender points. If they're anything like the ones I've seen in the past, there'll be big metal bins with a kind of tiny one-way slot where you pop your knives through and they clatter in there, and every week or every now and then the police come and empty them. You can't get in there, so you can't take the knives. And if you get seen putting a knife in there, well, you can't get told off. It's anonymous. Is it going to help knife crime, though? Is it going to cut down knife crime? Be interesting. I don't know if there are any statistics on where this has been implemented before. I know this has happened in London a lot. It'd be interesting to see if there are any statistics that that can correlate the use of these knife surrenders with an increase or decrease in knife crime. 03453 009956. Tom's in West Brom. You've been waiting for ages, Tom. Thank you for that. What have you got for us?
It's okay. Good morning. I just think the Minister has just been on is missing the point. Well, sorry, I didn't mean that as a pun. They're missing the reason why people would carry a knife. If you imagine a young kid or anyone really, you're in a situation where suddenly something's happened, you're threatened, your adrenaline's spinning around, you're terrified, you don't have the confidence to deal with the situation, you know you're going to get beaten up badly. Are you going to worry about a bunch of police officers sitting in the office? Nope, you're not. Are you going to be terrified of the people in front of you? Yes, you are. So you got nothing to lose there. You got a knife in your pocket. The sensible thing, pull it out, threaten the people, tell them to go away or else. And that's how people think. You know, I think until they get around that way of thinking, they're not solving anything. So they need to teach young people, in my opinion, self-defence lessons. So if it comes to a situation, they're able to have the confidence to defend themselves without weapons. But more importantly, teach them how to control their emotions, how to control the situation, how to deal with those situations. Until they learn that, it's a waste of time giving knives in. The way I see it. Anyway,
so you think we should be teaching kids karate and kung fu?
Well, either that, or it doesn't have to be karate or kung fu. It could be aikido, it could be jiu-jitsu. It's something that gives you the confidence that you can defend yourself. Certainly, when I was very young as a teenager, I was very weak. I was, you know, one of the ones that got picked on at school, etc., etc. So I'm sure I probably did carry a knife in those days with the purpose of saying, if you come near me, I'm going to hurt you. Go away. And then you imagine in your mind, right, that solved that problem, now I can carry on. And I'm sure that's the way many young people think. So until you have the confidence, I imagine lots of people who do go to martial arts, it's probably unlikely they're going to carry a knife because they're physically fit, they've got a quick response with their mind, so they know if they get into a tight situation, they can run away or they can deal with it. But if you're with a person who hasn't got any of that, who's terrified, the terror will drive them forward to survival.
Tom, sorry, did you say that you carried a knife when you were younger?
When I was a teenager in the 70s, it was absolutely normal to carry a knife. There was absolutely no reason why you wouldn't. It was like pen knives. You know, it was just like a kid's thing. You wouldn't bat an eyelid at it. It was just normal, you know.
And how old were you when you carried this knife?
Well, it would be pen knives. It would be a variety of pen knives I had over teenage years. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but in the 60s, if you saved up crisp packets, you could send off so many tokens and you'd actually get a pen knife for a certain price. So that was how popular it was.
Yeah. And did you ever get yourself in a situation where you got your back up against the wall and you whipped the knife out?
I don't think I did, but on one occasion I did get attacked by 3 men. I did have the knife in my pocket at the time because I always carried it for practical reasons, not for self-defence. But at the back of your mind you think, well, you know this is for practical reasons, but it could come in handy. On that occasion, unfortunately, everything happened so quickly, it didn't occur to me that I had the knife in my pocket. So I just had to deal with all 3 of them at that time. And in that time and moment, you haven't got time for fear, you haven't got time for emotions. You're like an animal who's cornered, and you've got to react as fast as you can and get out of the situation or just fight your way out. So, you know, thinking doesn't come into it. You're basically like a response. You respond to everything around you just to survive. Yeah.
Tom, I appreciate your call. And interesting point there, because we all think, knife crime, it's a modern phenomenon. Well, it's not, is it? It's been around. Young people carrying knives or razors, as I think it was in the 50s, it's been around for ages. Is it any worse now? I don't know. I don't have the figures. But, you know, the mods and rockers would carry blades, wouldn't they, in the 60s? Tom was carrying I remember pen knives were huge in the 70s. Everyone had a pen knife. Don't think, did I? I had a pen knife, but I had it at home to play with. Yeah, that's right. I had a knife at home to play with. 03453 009956. Doreen's in Erdington. Morning, Doreen.
Graham, I don't think you need a knife to defend yourself. If I was going anywhere vulnerable and I'm a woman,
yes,
I'd put either a deodorant, you can buy small deodorant spray, or a small lacquer in my pocket. You got more chance of getting that out and spraying them in the face than you have using a knife.
So you'd spray a deodorant, you spray some Lynx in someone's face?
Somebody was coming towards me and I thought I was vulnerable. I'll get it out and spray him in the face.
But that's not going to... I mean, it might stun them for a couple of seconds.
In the eyes, I couldn't see what they was doing.
That would make them angrier, though, Doreen.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see what they wouldn't... You'd be able to make your escape by then. Because there'd be that much trying to clear their eyes out. They wouldn't have time to...
What's wrong with a swift kick to the ghoulies?
Well, yes, if you can do it.
Yes.
You know, but at my age, I probably couldn't. But if I went anywhere I thought I might be vulnerable,
do you feel...
out late at night, I'll put something like that in my pocket.
On a serious point, Doreen, do you feel nervous? All this talk of knife crime, does it make you nervous? Does it make you anxious?
I've never been nervous.
No?
I could walk through a graveyard at midnight, but I think it's because I was brought up during the war.
Right, OK.
And it makes you tougher.
Yeah.
And I'm not... if I heard a noise in the night, I wouldn't lie there thinking, is it? I'd get up and have a look.
Oh, Doreen.
Yeah, well, why lie there? You'll never go to sleep, so you might as well get up and investigate. It might be nothing at all.
Yeah.
But
Doreen?
that's the type I am.
Yes, I know. Thank you very much. 03453 009956. I'm not in any way encouraging people to spray links in the eyes of the attackers or kick them in the ghoulies. I do wonder. I remember self-defence was big kind of in the sort of the 80s and the 90s after Susie Lamplugh. Self-defence classes for women. And I often wondered if anybody's been on those self-defence classes or did, a few sessions of karate and ever used it in an actual situation. You know that thing, you always, they kind of do it in slow motion, don't they? An attacker comes and puts his arm around a woman, she gets her elbow and whacks him in the stomach, then chucks him over the shoulder. Does that ever, if you've been on a self-defence class at any point in your life, have you ever used the things you've learnt in that? 03453 009956. Right, it's 9:45. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. The inbound side of the A38 at Bromford Lane is still shut. Repairs are being carried out, emergency repairs, because of subsidence at the junction with Bromford Lane and the A38. There is a diversion via there in Heartlands Parkway. The closure is likely to stay in place over the weekend, so may cause you some congestion and disruption at times. The other side of the A38, around the Belgrave interchange, has been looking a little bit busy this morning. It seems to be on the move for the moment, but obviously little pockets of congestion toing and froing around there. In Stourbridge, Racecourse Lane has flooding near the golf course between Norton Road and Worcester Lane. The road is open, but obviously just be a bit careful as you make your way around there. Now, Aston Villa fans are off to Everton this afternoon. The M6 is looking clear so far, no reported delays as you head up north towards the M62 interchange, which in turn is also looking OK. Walsall fans, don't go anywhere this afternoon. The match at Sixfields, the Coventry game, has been called off after a pitch inspection in the last sort of half an hour or so. So the Walsall game, your match day travel, don't travel to Coventry, don't travel indeed to Northampton where they play their home games currently. That game is off this afternoon. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
Thank you, Liz.
Ed Doolan on a Sunday.
Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler?
This Sunday, we'll be looking back at two of the most legendary writers on British television.
19 years we've been together, David and I. 19 years.
Jimmy Perry and David Croft.
He said, but now listen to me, son. It's better to have 50% of something than 100% damn all.
Ed Doolan on a Sunday.
From 12 on BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Ian Lee, BBC WM 95.6, and so far in the last hour, I've only taken the station off air once. That's got to be a bonus, hasn't it? That's got to be an improvement. When you take a station off air at the BBC, you get fined £50 per time, so I'm 50 quid down already. 03453 009956. In a little bit, we'll be talking about Amanda Knox. Foxy Noxy, of course, is the media nickname for her, the young lady who was found guilty of murdering her friend in Italy. Then she wasn't found guilty, and then she's been found guilty again. We'll talk about that in a bit. But before that, knife crime. In Birmingham, they're going to set up these knife surrender points where you can go and drop off a knife without fear of prosecution. Good idea? Is it going to stop knife crime? Paul's in... Where are you, Paul? You're in Warwick, aren't you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm in Warwick. I'm not from Warwick. I'm from Halesowen.
OK. What would you like to say?
Well, first of all, I was listening to the gentleman. I've done martial arts. I'm fifth Dan Shotokan. I've done martial arts from when I was 9 or 10, and I'm now 50. I haven't trained now properly since I was about 40. I was listening to the gentleman, and he said he carried a knife, and I was horrified at first. And I thought, why would you carry a knife? And then I realised, now I'm 50, to when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And when I was probably from about 7 or 8, I can remember going on holiday down to Western, buying a knife. I needed a knife when I was 8, 9 and 10. And the reason I needed a knife was because I needed to make a spear. And what did I need to make a spear for? Because we used to do something called playing outside. And we used to dream of going down to the river and spearing a fish. I don't think I ever speared a fish. I probably didn't even see a fish. But we needed make a spear because we were kids. We were members of something called Cubs and Scouts. Probably many of your listeners probably think I'm a little bit sarcastic now when I say this, but we had knives. They were part of our uniform that we took to Cubs and Scouts. And we were encouraged to do things and make things out of wood. It was called outdoor life, and it was called enjoying ourselves.
I know what you mean. There is a reluctance these days to allow children to go outside and play because there are paedophiles everywhere. Oh dear, you can't walk down a street without there being paedophiles. If you listen to what's being said in the media, of course it's complete nonsense. But yeah, do you think part of the problem, Paul, is then that people don't go out and play outside when they're younger?
I think there's too much of this do-goody type thing, like you say, where there's paedophiles everywhere. I mean, there must have been paedophiles when we were young. It just wasn't reported, I suppose, as much. I don't know. But there's no encouragement whatsoever to let children go out. I mean, if you go out nowadays and, you're walking around by the streets and everything, you see gangs of kids hanging around, and it's like, oh, there's a mass gang, they're going to be fighting, they're going to be doing something. We used to do it. We used to hang around in groups on street corners, and the police didn't come along and move us on because you were frightened of the police, and it was like got a police to come, we were going to get out of here quick. And we were doing nothing wrong. It was this thing that we were brought up with, this upbringing, whereas, if the police came along, you made sure you were all squeaky clean. Now you see groups of youth, and they see the police coming along, and they just go, oh, well, what difference does it make? Let's give them some lip, let's give them some stick.
Paul, you mentioned you were, what did you say, Fifth Dan? Did you say at karate?
Yeah, okay.
For those who don't know, that's good. Paul's
It's really good.
Have you ever had to use that in a situation out on the street where someone's come up to you with a knife or a mugger or something's happened and you've just done a few karate moves?
Yeah, I had somebody come up to me with it was a bit silly. It was with a dart. He got one of these darts and he decided he was going to attack me with the dart.
What do you mean, like from a dartboard?
From a dartboard, yeah. He threatened me with a dart, which it was quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, I've had that. There was a burglary in a house by where I live, and the burglar had got a baseball bat, and of course, I went in the house and disarmed him. But the thing is, it's like one of your callers mentioned earlier on, when you are trained to defend yourself, you actually don't get into situations because your mindset is you're more alert and you're more used to things going wrong, that you sort of, if you go to a pub, you sit with your back to the wall, you don't sit in the middle of the room, and you can see what's happening all the time, and it's a mindset and it's a way of life that it's like we go back to the penknives. There's nothing wrong with a penknife, it's the idiot that's got it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a knife. I can't see a problem. I mean, I haven't got any grandchildren yet, but I'm dreading the day when my grandchildren are about 8 or 9 and I say, right, let's go and buy you a penknife, and let's show you what you can do with a penknife and how you can enjoy making things, spears and things like that with a penknife.
Paul, thank you very much. I remember making spears to spear fish in the local stream. I don't think there were even any fish. It wasn't even a stream. It was more looks like a trickle. And we built... what a lovely memory. Thank you, Paul. We'd make spears. Going to spear ourselves a trout. There wasn't a trout in there, for goodness sakes. 03453 009956. Mike's in Tamworth. Morning, Mike.
Morning, mate.
Mike, what do you reckon?
Yeah, we're all going back to nostalgia here, and it's right. In the 60s, if you were a scout, you were allowed to carry a sheath knife.
Yeah.
And I had a 6-inch blade, bone handle sheath knife. Deadly, deadly thing. But nobody ever used them. We don't go around stabbing people with them. I think one of the problems in more recent times is we are seeing people... how shall I put it? Being aggressive to other people with a knife, not in defence. There's a big difference between the two. People carrying knives at times, if they did get in a mess, is one thing. People carrying them to use them is as bad as a gun. If you get what I mean. I tell you what, last year we were going abroad, and when we got the other end, out through the airport, I found I'd been through the scanners of it. I got a Swiss Army knife in my pocket.
Oh, blimey.
And I came back with it in my coat pocket.
What, on the plane? You're not allowed to carry knives on planes?
No, I know. This was pure accident because I used it for work. And I thought, what should I do? Dump it? I thought, no, well, if they take it off me coming back, oh, fair enough. I came back the other way with it. I was amazed. I thought, hang on, we got all these measures in place.
And you snuck through.
But I wonder where these laws are going, because when you think of the tooling I carry in a week, with crowbars, hammers, I've got a 14-inch butchering knife usually in the back of my car, which is used to slit insulation board.
Right.
But can I get in trouble for that?
Well, the thing is, though, Mike, you're not some 17-year-old oik or some, drugged-up 36-year-old. You're a bloke who's got a profession, and yes, the police stopped you. You might have some explaining to do, but you could do that explaining. But if you're, just some loser who's got that knife in his jacket pocket, there isn't really, is there, in the 21st century, there isn't really any reason for people to be walking around the streets with a knife, be it a 6-inch blade or a penknife or anything like that, is there?
Yeah, no, you did right.
And I guess
Funny enough, I'm actually going home now because we've just replaced the big knife carousel in the kitchen, and we sat yesterday trying to fathom out how we get rid of it.
Oh, blimey. Well,
I'm actually going to have to go and take it to the tip in a bit. I can't put it in the dustbin.
Mike, thank you for that. Can you take knives to the tip? I suppose you can. You're right. You don't want to put it in the dustbin, or maybe you can take it to one of these drop-off points, these surrender points, when they finally get introduced in the spring. It's interesting, isn't it? How do you get rid of knives? I don't know. Terry's in Cosley. Morning, Terry.
Good morning.
Terry, what would you like to say?
Well, I'd like, I used to go about, and I was a bit of a little tough guy, We all was in them days, We thought we was tough guys. Little tough guys, It was part of young men growing up. But to use a knife, you'd have been, in my day, we'd have been totally disgraced as a coward.
When was your day, Terry? What are we talking about? The 30s?
I grew up in the 60s, when I was in my teens.
But there was knife crime in the 60s. Gangsters would carry knives. The mods and the rockers would have knife and razor fights.
Put it like this, I've wrote a book on fighting, because I've wrote a couple of books, actually. Oh. I haven't had them published, I've just wrote them. And all the fights I had, my dad was a professional heavy boxer, and I learned to fight when I was young. But I was very small. I was only 5'5" and about 10 stone, less than 10 stone when I used to go out, a teddy boy. And nobody that I knew carried a knife, because if they had done, they'd have been outcast. I wouldn't have had nothing, or any of friends I know. Anybody who carried a knife, to me, was a coward.
Hang on a second, Terry. But yet you got involved in a few punch-ups, did you?
Yes.
And that was all right?
Well, it couldn't... no, I'm not saying it was all right. What I'm saying is, we used to go on to dance hall. I used to... Because I knew I could fight, It was just something... I was born with, like, some people can sing, and I knew I could look after myself while I was small. On quite a few... I've actually warned the guys as I was walking out, I've actually said, mate, if I was you, I wouldn't come. But I would only do that, and I never fought anybody that was as big as myself. That was all 4 and 5 inches bigger. But then
doesn't that prove, Terry, that this young people, gangs fighting each other, it has always happened? And it always will happen. It's just got different names. In the 50s and 60s, it was the Teddies, it was the Rockers, it was the Mods, it was the Punks in the set. It's always going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, but it ain't the Rockers or whatever you call them. It's cowardism, because if you're a rocker or a teddy boy, whatever you are, you go out to a dance. I don't know. Something happens. You might bump into somebody accidentally, not a spill of glass, and a fight will break out. But you do it with your fist. You don't do it with knives. I mean, we've got to get across in this. Like somebody was saying earlier, you buy your kids pen knives to make. I wouldn't dream of buying my kids pen knives.
But you tell them it was all right to go and get in a punch-up?
If it was... yes. That's the way to settle an argument with these guys.
Terry, I've got to end it there just to come up to the news at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. Interesting that I'm laughing... Only because maybe Terry can't see the irony there. He's saying, if you carry a knife, you're a coward, okay? If you carry a knife, you're a coward. But
BBC WM.
There we go. I'll get the right button in a minute. There we go. That's the one. If you carry a knife, you're a coward. But it's all right to go and have a little punch up. Oh, that's more dignified. That's more respectful. That's fine to go and do that. We'll take more of your calls on this, please. 03453 009956. Can we get rid of knife crime ever? And will these surrender bins work? This is Iain Lee on BBC WM 95.6. We'll have more of your calls in just a little bit.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 10 o'clock. Let's get the news now with Nicole Pullman.
Thank you, Ian. Police have confirmed they'll be introducing a knife surrender in Birmingham this spring as a way of getting weapons off the streets of the city. It's a variation on a knife amnesty, which was called for following BBC WM's knife crime debate last summer. Instead of the one-off amnesty, there'll be permanent drop-off points at community centres and public spaces. Just this week, 2 men were stabbed in Birmingham, one of whom died, and a 17-year-old was convicted of murdering 15-year-old Hassan Mahmood, who was stabbed in the back in a pre-arranged fight in Yardley in Birmingham. His uncle, Sajid Ramzan, says they'll never get over it.
Just looking back at it, the whole process of seeing the body and going to the hospital and the mortuary and then having to bury him, a 15-year-old child, having to bury him 6 foot underground, it was just terrible, mate.
West Midlands Fire Service say unless Chinese lanterns are banned, someone will be killed or seriously injured. It's the Chinese New Year celebrations this weekend, but the fire service is asking people not to set them off. Last year, a lantern started the biggest fire there's ever been in the West Midlands. It set light to 100,000 tonnes of plastic when it landed at J-Plas Recycling Depot in Smethwick. The government has so far rejected calls for an outright ban, saying there's not enough evidence that they are a major problem. Phil Hales is the Deputy Chief Fire Officer for our region.
We've done some of our own tests with Chinese lanterns, and the heat in the candle element when they land is around 500 degrees, and if that lands on anything flammable, it will cause a fire. Nobody can control the lanterns once they're in the sky. So our message is people, reconsider, think of another way of enjoying yourself. Please don't use the lanterns.
The Labour leader Ed Miliband wants to reduce the power of trades unions within the party. In future, he wants the Labour Party leader to be decided using a one-member, one-vote system. Currently, a third of electoral college votes go to MPs and MEPs, another third to trades unions, and the remainder to party members. But Ian Davidson, who's a member of the trade union group of Labour MPs, says it's the wrong time to do this.
It's not particularly desirable, and there's been nobody in my constituency coming along to me saying at this time of economic crisis what we need is a reorganisation of the Labour Party.
Sport and Aston Villa go to Everton full of confidence following their thrilling 4-3 victory over local rivals West Bromwich Albion in midweek. There'll be commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 3 o'clock, with the build-up starting at midday with Daz Hale's early kick-off. Striker Gabby Agbonlahor will undergo a late fitness test, having missed the game against the Baggies with a foot injury. Birmingham City will try and record their first home win since the 1st of October as fourth-place Derby County visit St Andrews. There'll be commentary from 3 o'clock on BBC WM DAB in Birmingham. The game comes just 4 days after Blues were given a glimpse of life at the other end of the table in losing 2-1 to the runaway championship leaders Leicester City. The assistant manager Terry McDermott says Derby do share similarities with the Foxes.
They keep the ball, they've got a lot of pace in the team. Not as much as Leicester, because everywhere you look there, they've got pace. But they are a similar sort of team. They like keeping hold of the ball. They've got some good players individually. But we've played them once before, and we give them a game at their place. We drew 1-1, and we need to put that type of performance on again.
Wolves look for a fourth win in a row when they play Bradford at Molineux this afternoon. They're third in League One, 2 points outside the automatic promotion places. Warsaw's match against Coventry City, though, has fallen foul of the wet weather. An inspection this morning at Sixfield Stadium has deemed the pitch to be unplayable, so the League One clash has been postponed. A new date for the game will be confirmed early next week. The weather, a dry morning with some sunshine, very windy today though, showers and longer periods of rain this afternoon, and a chilly top temperature of only 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. The showers continuing tonight but dying out overnight, when it'll turn cold with the chance of frost or ice patches. Temperature overnight 2 Celsius, 36 Fahrenheit, and tomorrow another breezy day with sunshine and just the odd shower. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice. The Voice. The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist.
Well, I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Thank you for that, Nicole. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Here every Saturday morning between 9 and 12, and it's a great opportunity for you to phone up and have your say about some of the big stories of the week, some of the big stories of the weekend. In a little bit, we'll be talking about Amanda Knox. I don't know how appropriate it is to call her Foxy Noxy. Now that she's a murderer again, she's been found guilty again. Is it appropriate to abbreviate her name to Foxy Noxy? I don't know. We'll be talking about that fascinating story. We'll be speaking to an extradition specialist to find out what could and what should happen to her. We'll be talking about dogs later on. A woman horrifically attacked 3 times by her dog. Right, massive thing it is. She's still keeping it. Oh, I'm not having it put down. Oh, I'm still keeping it. If you've got a big dog, there is something wrong with you. There really is. And here's the thing. If you've got a big dog and small children, you're a bad parent? Possibly. Possibly. I do think you see these big dogs. We're playing with these little toddlers, these little babies. Oh no, he'd never the little baby. You don't know. You don't know. 03453 009956. But we're carrying on with your calls at the moment about knife crime. The reason we're talking about it is the permanent knife drop-off points are going to be set up. Well, will they reduce knife crime in the West Midlands? What can we do to reduce knife crime? And also, what are your knife stories? We're getting lots of calls from people who used to, back in the day, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, used to carry knives. What are your knife stories? 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
You can email me as well, iain.lee, iain.lee at bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333, start your text WM. Jane Dudley has texted in. Iain, the drop-off points are a start, but more education in schools and monitoring of social media may help. I would bet over the years social media has played a big part towards knife crime. Jay, may I ask how? How do you think social media has played a big part in knife crime? I can't make the connection. Maybe I'm being dim. I'm often dim on a Saturday morning, which is unfortunate because I'm talking to you. I'm supposed to sound intellectual. But maybe I'm missing the connection, Jay. Give us a call. 03453 009956. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, Bebo, LinkedIn, Friends Reunited. Ringo? There's one called Ringo, isn't there? There is, I think. They're blamed for a lot of things, and they're responsible for a lot of things. Are they responsible for knife crime? I think I'm missing something there. 03453 009956. John's in Kings Norton. Morning, John.
Morning, Iain.
John,
how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. What do you reckon about knife crime? Is there anything we can do to make it to get rid of it, to stop it?
Well, I think for a start off, like closing youth centres and youth provision services isn't going to help at all. You know, with this coalition government, I'm not going to get political about it, but that's not going to help at all because, like, when I used to be a youth worker, we were able to open up debates and discussions and talk about what it was like for them on the street or what they call on road. And, through that, dialogue, we'd be able to assess just like the amount of fear that they felt just walking the streets, like, and it was exacerbated by the media. Like the media sort of, demonised your youth at the time, and it's like everyone in a hoodie was like a potential murderer.
Yeah, there is still a lot of that, and I started off the show by saying it's kids killing kids, and there is a certain extent of that. But I don't want people to think that this show is knocking all young people. I genuinely believe, and if I didn't believe this, that it would be a bleak place. I genuinely believe the majority of young people are fantastic. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
They want to better themselves, they want to better their family, they want to work hard, they want to achieve things, or maybe they don't want to achieve things, they don't quite know what they are yet. It's only a tiny minority of these little so-and-sos that are doing this really bad stuff.
Even those little so-and-sos, Ian, they've come from of course you can't condone the behaviour, but they've come from broken homes.
Yeah.
There's always a reason for it.
There is always a reason, and I empathise totally with people who've come from broken homes or suffered abuse or all these things. But at some point, if a 17-year-old is putting a knife into a 15-year-old, at that point, that 17-year-old has to take responsibility for their actions, don't they?
Absolutely. Yep.
John, sorry. Yeah, John, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. I've got a lot of empathy for people who've suffered and struggled in their lives. But if a 17-year-old, it doesn't matter what they've had happen to them, if a 17-year-old is putting a knife in a 15-year-old, at that moment, that 17-year-old has to take responsibility for what they've done. They can't go, oh yeah, but my parents split up. Oh, I used to get beaten up at home. Well, OK, but you have to take responsibility. 03453 009956 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Now, here's a story that I've been fascinated by it. Foxy Noxy, Amanda Knox. Should she return to Italy to serve her sentence? The family of the British student Meredith Kircher, who was killed in 2007, say they are still on the journey to the truth after an Italian court upheld murder convictions against Amanda Knox and her ex-boyfriend. Well, Knox is in the US after being acquitted at an earlier trial, has given an emotional TV interview in which she said she would never willingly return to Italy. Have a listen to this, and then we'll speak to a couple of guests afterwards and get their opinion on this.
I will never go willingly back to the place where I'm going to fight this until the very end, and it's not right, and it's not fair, and I'm going to do everything I can. Granted, I need a lot of help. I can't do this on my own, and I can't help people understand this on my own.
It's a confusing story. She was a murderer, then she wasn't a murderer, now she's a murderer again. Well, let's try and understand this a bit better. We can speak to human rights barrister Iain. Iain, is it Iain Brownhill or Iain Brown?
Brownhill.
Brownhill, thank you. I didn't want to get that wrong. From Number 5 Chambers. You specialise in extradition cases, don't you?
I do, yeah.
What's the situation between America and Italy? What are the extradition rules like there? Do we know?
Well, we do know that they have a treaty, the two countries. So, theoretically, if the Italians want to get her back, they can.
But the Americans always seem quite reluctant to send their citizens away. Is that right?
Oh, massively, yes. I mean, the Americans look after themselves, and they're not really terribly interested in international treaties. But, of course, this is a bit different. It's a European partner. They're going to have to do something if a request is made.
Do we know what the plan of the Italians is? I mean, she was found guilty a few days ago. Have they made any moves to start extradition processes yet?
Not yet. The Italians have a sort of really strange trial system whereby there's two layers to it. You almost get found guilty in a lower court, then you have to be found guilty in an upper court again, which is this court we've heard about a few times. And then the request will be made to the Americans. So there's a little bit of time yet. There's going to be yet another hearing in the Italians' higher court. And then they will decide whether or not she's guilty. And if she's guilty, they will go after her, I'm sure.
And because she was found innocent before, wasn't she?
Yeah,
she was cleared of everything.
Effectively, she was found guilty in the first instance. Then they went to the upper court. They had problems with what the prosecutor did. They had problems with some of the DNA evidence. Goes back again, and then she's been found guilty again. So it's a real up and down story, complicated not only because of what the Italian police did, but what the Italian prosecutors did at the time.
Well, we hear, there's been lots of big extradition cases in this country recently. The gentleman who was accused of hacking into the Pentagon.
Yeah.
There's the chap who's wanted in South Africa to be questioned about the murder of his wife.
Sure.
It must be very stressful for those people who are waiting to be extradited.
Yeah, it's a horrible experience. I mean, you're sort of, a lot of the time, you sat in a prison waiting to go to a foreign country, and you don't know what's going to happen when you get there. You don't know what lawyer you're going to have. You don't know hardly any of the evidence against you at all. I mean, in European cases, you have the flimsiest bits of paper, and the presumption is, if another European country wants you back for extradition, you are going. It's very, very difficult to resist extradition from this country. We have a very big attitude towards, if another foreign country asks, we will almost send people back automatically. A much different situation to the Americans have.
It does seem to appear at the moment, and this will be the final question because I need to go travel, but it does seem to appear at the moment in this country that if you can kind of prove, and I don't know how you do that you're suicidal and that if you were taken to another country you would kill yourself, then you're allowed to stay.
Well, that's actually built into the Extradition Act itself.
Right.
If it's unjust or oppressive because of your mental health to remove you to a foreign country, then that is a bar to extradition, yeah.
Fascinating stuff, Iain. I appreciate your time. Iain Brownhill from number 5 Chambers. In a second, after the travel, we've got a cracking story. We'll be speaking to someone who was extradited from Spain to Britain. We'll get that in a second. Right now, though, it's 10:16, a little bit late. Let's get the travel news with Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you head to the A38, just be aware that the inbound side of the A38 at Bromford Lane is shut. Emergency repairs need to be carried out because of subsidence. So while the works are going on, as I say, the road is closed at that junction. There is a diversion via Bromford Lane and Heartlands Parkway, with closures likely to stay in place all over the weekend. It's not looking too bad otherwise as you head in and out of Birmingham. The rest of the A38 around the Belgrave interchange is picked up nicely. No problems on the A456 along the Hagley Road in from the M5 and towards Five Ways Island. In Stourbridge, flooding is an issue on Racecourse Lane near to the Golf Club. The road is open, but obviously go along with a bit of caution. Your matchday travel sees Aston Villa heading to Everton this afternoon. It's a clear run on the M6 so far, up towards the M62 interchange and on Merseyside. That's all looking pretty good. It's a good 2 hours journey, though, so you might want to think about setting off in plenty of time fairly shortly. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
Thank you, Liz.
Pete Morgan at breakfast. Now, there's not many children who, at the age of 7, can name every single one of the 220 capital cities on the planet. So when we heard about Henry Close from Shard End and his special talent, we said we've got to get him in.
Good morning, Pete.
How come you're so clever?
I have a photographic memory.
What's the capital of Sudan?
Khartoum.
Tonga.
Nuku'alofa.
It is Nuku'alofa. Don's in Telford. Morning, Don.
Mongolia.
Ulaanbaatar.
Bermuda.
Hamilton.
Crikey.
Boom, there you go.
Pete Morgan at breakfast.
He's an absolute wonder. When you get big and famous, you won't forget us, will you?
I'm never going to forget this day.
Monday to Friday, 6 till 9.
On BBC WM 95.6.
We're talking later on in the show about if you send your kids to nurseries are horrible places, according to someone. And if you go out and work as a mum instead of staying at home with your kids, well, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe you're a bad mum. Now, not necessarily coming from me, before you start phoning up having a go. But I recorded an interview with a couple of guests just before the show. Don't pull that face, Daz. Don't pull that. He's making the symbol for me being killed. I spoke to a couple of guests before the show who had some very, very strong views about mums who go out to work. Fascinating stuff. We'll get to that a bit later on. Just a reminder, Coventry versus Walsall. The game is off. The waterlogged pitch at Sixfields in Northampton. Hey, still go to Northampton if you want. Junction 15 of the M1, I think. It's a cracking place, but if you're going there for Coventry versus Walsall, then I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. We're talking about Amanda Knox. She's been found guilty again of the murder of Meredith Kircher. 2007. Gosh. She's in America, and she's saying she ain't gonna go. Well, what's it like to face extradition from one country to another? We can join now by Terry Daniels. Terry wrote the book Passport to Hell. Morning, Terry.
Hi.
Terry, tell me your story. What happened?
I moved to Tenerife in 1996 to work abroad, and in 97 I went on a holiday with my boss to Brazil, and it was on the way back through customs that he was carrying 4 kilos of cocaine. We were both arrested. He said I had nothing to do with it, but I was imprisoned with bail. A year later, we went to court in Gran Canaria, and I was sentenced to 10 years in prison with a 76 million peseta fine. But I wasn't going to prison because in Spain you appeal from outside the prison. It got to the year 2000, and I thought, well, this must be all over. I've heard nothing. So I come back to the UK, and 3 years later, in 2003, I was arrested on a European arrest warrant issued by Spain. So this is 6 years on from the initial arrest. Now, I fought the case in Britain, and in 2005, they extradited me back to Spain to start my sentence.
So you were... This is all very confusing. First of all, you went to Brazil with your boss. Yeah. He had a load of drugs in his suitcase or in his bag or whatever, and you had nothing to do with that. Did you suspect anything was going on?
No, not at the time. I thought he took me away for other reasons, not for drugs. No.
Oh, I say, it was like that, was it?
Yes.
And when you was it at the airport that you got busted?
Yes, coming back from obviously South America, all baggage gets checked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your reaction when... You must be thinking quite smugly, well, they're going to check our baggage, they're not going to find... Oh, my goodness, what's he got in there?
Yeah, he stated on numerous occasions, and did it throughout the trial, that I had nothing to do with it. He denounced everybody he was working for. So he took responsibility for the drugs, but in Spain, they have a crime which is guilt by association. So whether you knew or don't know, because you're with somebody who's committing a crime, you will be done for it.
Gosh, that seems harsh.
So, and the trial lasted for an hour, and I had no interpreter, and we later found out that my lawyer was actually corrupt. So the conviction that Britain sent me back from here to Spain was a very unsafe
So you came back to Britain because you thought you hadn't heard anything about it, and it must be all sorts... Did you not check with anyone? Did you not go to the police or the authorities and say, look, well, I want to go back to Britain, is that OK?
No, because I applied for a new passport, and the passport come through. But we'd received a letter via my local MP from the ambassador of Spain, which is now mistranslated and everything, that I was released with no readmission on the day that I got out on bail.
What does that mean, released with no readmission?
Well, you tell me.
Right, oh, OK, right.
Because everybody thought I'd been released and I was never going back. But the appeals in Spain, like Amanda's, are all done in your absence, so you don't actually ever appear beyond your first initial court case. So you don't know what's going on. I don't know whether the appeals were ever read. I've only got sort of misconstrued information given to me that the court cases did go on. But to this day, I don't know.
Then you get arrested in Britain?
Yes.
Well, that must have been a shock.
Well, it was a Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and 3 officers were at my door from Scotland Yard issuing a European arrest warrant, and they said I was a fugitive on the run.
Wow. Have you got family? Have you got kids or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Obviously, because this went on for nearly 14 years, I have no family. Right. I have no husband. I have no children. No. Life has been swept under me. So
you went back to Spain?
Yep.
And what happened then?
I went to the holding prison in Madrid, and then I was transferred over to Topaz in Salamanca. As soon as I arrived, I applied for repatriation back to the UK to serve the remainder of my sentence. And also, Fair Trials International in Britain found me a good lawyer, what we can call a good lawyer over there, and to apply for the last procedure, which is a royal pardon. So my repatriation come through 19 months into my sentence in Spain. So I was allowed to come back and serve the remainder of it in the UK. And it was 3.5 years into my sentence that they gave me what's called a partial pardon. So they reduced the sentence from 10 to 6 years. So on time served, I come out on what's called a prison licence in Britain.
So how long did you serve in prison in total then?
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
And 2.5 on prison licence in the end.
What are those Spanish prisons like?
Just like prison. They're horrible.
Yeah.
They are violent. They are... You feel like you are invisible, really, because you don't speak the language. You can't understand what's going on half the time, and it's very lonely. And especially when you're so far away from your family in prison, the visits are very difficult.
How long did it take from your arrest in Britain to you being extradited to Spain?
2.5 years. The extradition hearings went on.
And what did that feel like? That must have been a very anxious time for you.
I always presumed that Britain would help me. I was under the obligation that they would sort of give me a fair trial here in Britain. But as the lawyer said before, once they issue a European arrest warrant, it's very difficult for them to overturn it. And England are obligated to issue the warrants. I was actually arrested under the old European arrest. I was one of the very last cases in Britain to be arrested that I could go to trial, because now the arrest warrant is it's fast track. They pick you up, they usually take you to the airport, and you're gone. So, and I was very frightened that I was still under I was in the new law, and that I was going to be taken straight back to the airport. At least I had another 2.5 years to try and fight my case before I was sent back. But it just prolonged the agony, really. And this is what Amanda will be feeling, because every day it'll be, oh my God, is this today that I'm going to go to prison? Is this a day that I'm going to... So, and she's had a real roller coaster of emotions, because obviously she's been in, she's been out, she's been back. So I can't even understand what she's going through.
Terry, it's an incredible story. You turned it into the book, Passport to Hell.
Yeah.
And people can get it on Amazon and places like that, I guess, can't they?
Yes, it's available on Amazon, and it's available on the Kindles as well.
I like a good proper book.
Yes,
I've not got round to these Kindles. I like a book that I can stick in my bag or put on my bedside table and I can read on a train properly.
Yes.
Terry, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. Terry Daniels wrote the book Passport to Hell, convicted for drug smuggling in Spain. You do wonder, I mean, you can't begin to imagine, can you, what Amanda Knox is going through. Who knows what happened there? I've just got a feeling we're never going to find out the truth as to exactly what happened there. But she's found guilty. Then she's found innocent. Now she's found guilty again. She must be terrified. Terrified. 03453 009956. If you want to give us a call on that, you're more than welcome to. Happily take your calls on that or any of the stuff that we're talking about this morning. And one of the big stories in the region is the introduction of knife surrender. It's not an amnesty. I don't quite know exactly what the difference is. I think an amnesty is temporary. A surrender is more permanent. I think, if anybody knows, then give us a call. Permanent knife drop-off points are being introduced in the West Midlands. A knife surrender in Birmingham this spring has been confirmed by the police as a way of getting weapons off of the streets of the city. Well, of course, regular listeners to BBC WM 95.6 will know it's been a hot topic of debate for ages here. Adrian Goldberg did a debate on it last year. So what are your thoughts on it? 03453 009956. Lots of different angles to this. The first thing, if we use this as our springboard, our starting point, will a knife surrender, a knife amnesty, will that have an effect on knife crime, do you think? Do you think it will change? And if it's not that, what do we do? We've had suggestions of toughening the sentence. If you get found on the street with a knife, don't matter what the reason is, unless you can prove it's for your work, boom, you get a year in prison. Does that work? Or is that too harsh? 03453 009956. We've also had some incredible stories from people who have been affected by knife crime, who have lost someone, who have witnessed it at first hand. Incredible chat with a mum earlier on who lost her son 11 years ago, got stabbed in the neck. If you've got a story like that you'd like to share, 03453 009956. And we're also hearing as well from a particular type of gentleman from a certain age range who used to carry knives in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Pen knives were all the rage. I remember pen knives. You could get, in the 70s, you could get things like David Cassidy pen knives and adamant pen knives. You could get them. They were kind of like a cool thing to have. We also had a great call from a fellow who said, if you carried a knife in the 50s, you're a coward. But the way you sorted it out was you went outside, you had a proper punch-up. Old-fashioned fisticuffs. I'm not quite convinced that's necessarily the message we should be giving to our young people. 03453 009956 is the phone number. You can also text 81333. Start your text WM. Lots of you tweeting as well. You can tweet at BBC WM or at Iain Lee. Do you think knife surrender will reduce crime? Nathaniel says no, it won't, but it will reduce the probability of injury by 1. Most dangerous thing out there isn't the knife, it's the mind. And Matt says, no, most folk who carry used knives don't operate within normal society. Bit of a generalisation. Yes, element of fact, also yes. And this is my worry, that you have a knife surrender and the only people who will put their knives in there are the kind of people that would never get involved in knife crime anyway, that would never stab anybody, that would never pull a knife out. Somehow they found a knife, they've been given a knife, they've bought a knife, and they've regretted it instantly. What do? I'll put it in here. Is it really going to work for the people who are committing those crimes? 03453 009956 is the telephone number. Michael's in Heath Hayes. Morning, Michael.
Morning to you.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, I carry a jackknife. I've carried it since I come out of the forces in 1970.
What's a jackknife?
It was issued an army-issued knife. It's got a thing for taking stones out of horses' hooves, which is like a spike.
Always useful.
It's got a screwdriver, and it's got a can opener on it.
OK. So it's a Swiss Army knife kind of thing?
No, it's quite a substantial one. It weighs quite a bit.
Oh, blimey.
But there again, when we was in the army, we used to get issued with a 7-inch bayonet, and I'd done 9 years, and I can't ever remember anybody being stabbed with a bayonet whilst I was in the army. So it's got to be a conditional thing, hasn't it? I would think, with people that use knives.
What do you mean a conditional thing, Michael?
I mean, you would know, when you're in the army, you're trained, and you would know, you wouldn't think of, if you was in a fight with somebody, of pulling out your bayonet and stabbing them.
No.
But in Civvy Street, you're not trained to that particular standard. So possibly, I think it's due to the fact that somebody who don't think he's going to win a fight by fighting will carry a knife, so he's going to win it by foul means or not fair.
Isn't it interesting? We're going back to this idea that it's nobler to have a punch-up.
Well,
they're both wrong, aren't they?
No. We used to have punch-ups years ago to settle an argument or a dispute at school and that, and it was one-on-one. If 2 or 3 people went to set about you, then the rest of the crowd had sort them out.
Yes.
So it would be nowadays, when you go out, you get half a dozen people come round and kick you all over the street. Now, that ain't a normal punch-up.
Well, it's not a normal punch-up, but I would suggest that all of those examples you've cited are inappropriate. Even a one-on-one. I would hate for my young boys, who are now 4 and 2, but I would hate for them to think that having a punch-up to sort out your problems is acceptable.
Well, how about this one? Goliath wasn't killed by David by him saying, we'll talk this over. He got hit on the head with a brick.
Yeah.
Well, it proved one point that talking to people don't always work.
OK, Michael, thank you for that. I'm not quite sure. I got a little bit lost there. I suspect Michael might have done as well. I'm not sure. I've got 2 boys. They're 4 and 2. They were 4 and 2 a couple of weeks ago. And I will do everything in my power to educate them that you don't have a fight. You don't have a fight. There's no need to have a fight. Yeah, self-defence. If you get attacked in the street and the only, if you need to kick someone, kick them, then run away. But you don't say, listen, I've got a problem with you. Don't like your attitude. Let's go outside. Let's sort this out man to man. Mano a mano. Roll up your sleeves. That's not... That's interesting. It's the second call we've had. from, again, a gentleman of a certain age who thinks that there is nobility, cowardice in using a knife, nobility in using your fists. It's the gentlemanly way to sort things out. Can someone give me a call and tell me I'm right on this? I feel like a lone voice here. That's wrong, isn't it? There's never any need to have a punch-up. Am I really crazy here? I've suddenly turned into some liberal lefty hippie who's espousing peace and love. 03453 009956. Is it ever acceptable to have a fight? There we go. Let's put that out there. Simon's in Walsall. Morning, Simon.
Good morning.
Simon, what have you got for me?
I carry a knife in my pocket. I'm a carpenter by trade, and I use my knife to sharpen my pencil, cut bits of timber. You know, it's always in my work trousers, but I'd never use it in a fight. It's been a good many years since I had a fight, and I was self-defence.
And that's the thing, Simon. You're a responsible adult. You need this knife for work.
Yeah.
But how do we stop the idiots who are carrying it around on a Friday night?
I don't think you ever will. I mean, like you say, if you have a knife amnesty, the people who put it in the box will be the people that find them, not the people that intentionally carry a knife for fights.
It's a bleak thought, isn't it, that we'll probably never stop this?
It is. I think it's just part of society today.
Simon, here's a question. We're going off on a slight tangent. I hope it doesn't sound flippant because it's not meant to be, but I've been struck by what a couple of people have said. Is it ever acceptable, Simon, to have a fight, have a punch-up?
No. But it's the only time I'd ever have a fight if I was defending myself or my family.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody broke into my house and started attacking me or my family, then, you know, it would be a punch-up.
Simon, thank you. And he makes a good point there. Yeah, you break into my house, listen, you can take what you want. You start going to hurt my wife and children, then it is anything goes. Then suddenly I get all Rambo. Not Rambo, but do you know what I mean? Then I would condone the use of whatever means necessary. Craig in Tamworth has texted in. With knife crime, what would be the deterrent? Your guest said her son's killer got 4.5 years for murder. Yeah, he did. 4.5 years for stabbing her boy in the neck. If that's all you get for brutally killing somebody, then what's to actually stop somebody doing it for that punishment? And maybe that's the thing. I mean, I don't... tougher? Do we want to get tougher sentences? Very rarely do I think that's necessarily the answer. But 4.5 years for stabbing some bloke in the neck, killing him, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, isn't it? 03453 009956. And on a slight tangent, just because I've been struck by the calls, the suggestions from a couple of the callers, is it ever acceptable for people to have a fight? Fists. Kev's in King's Heath. Morning, Kev.
Morning, Kev.
What have you got?
You sound about, if you remember David Cassidy penknives, you sound about the same age as me.
Kind of. But there wasn't it? In the 70s and the 80s, you could get penknives of your favourite pop stars.
No, but what I was going to say is fisticuffs. Now, last year, our lad was 12 years old, standing at the bus stop, minding his own business. He gets jumped on by another 12-year-old, two of them who want to bully him, jumped on his back. My son turned round with one punch, decked him. One punch, left him on the floor. He goes to get on the bus, the lad gets up and jumps on his back. And I said to my son, the only thing you did was turn your back. He didn't know that my son is a boxer. We're very extremely disciplined. One punch, fisticuffs. The lad didn't know he was a boxer. Now the whole school knows he's a boxer. And he's very disciplined. He was called in, and we were called in to see his form jam the other lad. And I said to his teacher, it was one punch in the street, not a brawl. If he's a boxer and the other lad's a bully, I will always say to my son, be disciplined, you are disciplined, you're a boxer, stop it, end it, and walk away. But don't turn your back, walk away backwards next time. Now, is that fisticuffs, or is that some young lad that's been bullied, that's got every right to defend himself and does it in a decent, Marcus of Queensbury, if you like, way? You don't know I'm a boxer, I hit you, you're out, end of story.
Well, if someone's jumped on his back and is trying to
Coward, on your back, coward.
So if someone's trying to do him over, then I would... It's a tough one, isn't it? Where do you draw the line? I don't know. But if someone's being attacked, that's self-defence, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly what I said to his form teacher. If you feel threatened by me sitting across that table, at any time you like, you can punch me on the nose because you feel threatened, and you can get away with that. But if somebody jumps on your back, a coward's way, on the back, not face to face, jump on your back, standing at the bus stop, what are you supposed to do? Well, normally I suppose 12-year-olds would have a little rough and tumble. My 12-year-old is very disciplined. He boxes because it's a disciplined sport.
Kev, what age did your boy start learning boxing?
He started coming boxing with me when he was 7.
Now, there will be some people listening to this who are a bit shocked by that, shocked that a dad could allow his boy to get in a boxing ring at the age of 7.
He started coming to Kung Fu with me when he was 7, and that led on to boxing. And he doesn't box grown-ups, he boxes kids of his own age. I didn't want him to box. I'm not a boxer. I started boxing 5 years ago. I didn't want, not interested. All I was interested in was the state of play with things, and if you like, the knife crime in the streets. Just being able to defend yourself. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? Just being able to defend yourself. And funny enough, 5-6 years on, he's defended himself once at a bus stop.
Yeah, and then words got around that he's a bit tasty.
And he's quiet. He's great in school. No, just some bully in school who's now not a bully to him. Because
do you not? I'm just trying to get my thoughts together on this. I'm not quite sure what I think, Kev. But do you not think it's a little bit odd for a parent? Our job as a parent is to protect our kids and to look after them as best we can. To encourage him to go boxing and to encourage him to get into controlled fights and to encourage him to hit other kids in a controlled environment, that might seem a little bit odd to some parents.
You might be playing devil's advocate for a bit because you've got a show to run, but I didn't encourage him. I went.
But you could stop him. You could stop him. You're his dad.
What do you say? Well, Dad, can I come with you and have a look? Yeah, of course you can. Come on. He's a footballer. He plays for a well-known team in the city, and he's doing really well. He's a footballer as well. If he says, can I come and watch you play football, Dad? Well, yeah, of course you can.
But you could stop him getting in that boxing ring. He's 12 years old. You could say, I'm your dad, you're not getting in.
I could, yes, and I don't. And the other point of your show this morning is I don't see any need for anybody without good reason to carry a knife in the street. I won't have to do that with him because he won't carry a knife in the street. I could encourage him to be a thug as well. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to encourage him to defend himself from thugs. I didn't encourage him to go boxing. He saw it, and he was with kids of his own age group, and. If you've ever boxed in, the first time you get punched on the nose and climbing out and boxing there, and you got to shake it off and get on with it. When that happened to him with kids of his age, he had to learn to defend. Everybody, all them kids had to learn to defend themselves, but none of them were forced. As far as I'm aware, I didn't force my son and say, "You're coming boxing with me because I want to toughen you up.
Get in that ring. I'll earn a few quid off you,
get
son.
In there, or I'll get a kick you and up the jack. Get it. No, he wanted to come, and he looked at it. And what he likes about it more than the boxing part is the physical fitness of it.
Yeah.
He likes all that, the physical fitness that we have to do.
Kev, fascinating. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, mate. There's Kev in King's Heath. I don't know what my thoughts are on that. I wasn't playing devil's advocate. I was generally trying to get a grasp on what I thought about 7-year-olds going boxing. Struggling to think. I don't know. He's learnt self-defence. He's learnt discipline. That's got to be good. In the boxing ring? Can you help me make my mind up on that? This is the great thing about doing this show is we start off with one thing. We fire off into so many different tangents. We're now talking about whether it's acceptable to have a fight at any point, any good reason to have a fight, and 7-year-olds boxing. 03453 009956. Ken's in Sheldon. Morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Ken, what would you like to say?
Just about on that last phone call regarding the young lad boxing.
Yes.
Fair play to him. It gives him self-confidence.
Yep.
It builds self-confidence. I mean, you've got all these youth activities. You've got judo, you've got karate, you've got, taekwondo and all this. It builds self-confidence. And then when you've got that self-confidence, you know for a fact that you can, A, handle yourself if need be.
Yeah.
But more to the point, you can control yourself when need be.
I'm just wondering, ethically, whether it's right to put, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids into a boxing ring.
Yeah, of course it is. It's not as if they're getting hammered.
No.
They are punching with head guards and with soft gloves, certain weight of gloves, somebody else. And it's a controlled environment, and that gives them the confidence and the stamina and the physique to be able to say, yes, I could take you out if I want to, but I choose not to because I'm disciplined. Whereas you get these thugs who are not disciplined, the first thing they do is they throw a fist because A, they're scared, and B, they've got no self-confidence. They want to get in first. So, the act of surprise, that's why someone gets jumped on the back. It's a coward's way out. But that's not why I've been on contact with you.
Go on, Ken, what you got?
I am fed up of hearing about this thing they get out the stones of horses, stones out of horses' hooves. It's not. It's the pusser's dirk or the knife, or everybody calls it a jackknife.
Yeah.
Is a naval piece of equipment that was issued to other services at the end, at a certain time.
Yeah.
It's a marlin spike. Now, a marlin spike is used for splicing rope together. You open up the weave of the rope, which is tightly wound. You can't do it with your fingers, so you use a marlin spike. You force that spike through the layer of the rope, open it up, and you can pass one of the strands back through itself, so you can do a back splice or an eye splice, or you've heard the expression splice the main brace. When you're splicing a rope of 7 inches thick together, you can't do it with your hands, so you use a marlin spike, and all that is a smaller version of a marlin spike.
So, Ken, let me get this right, and I appreciate your call, I really do. You've called in because you called me.
I didn't call you.
Okay. I appreciate the fact that you're on the air. You are angry about the fact that someone got the definition of one function on an army knife wrong.
No. I'm not angry about it. I'm just saying.
Just want to clarify it.
It's just to clarify. It's not against the horses. And the reason why I want to clarify is that my father was a blacksmith and a furrier.
Yeah.
Right. And he said you never take anything that sharp and pointed to the front of a horse's hoof.
Right.
Ken? You don't. You just don't do it.
Ken, I appreciate your call. Thank you. 03453 009956. Lots to talk about. I'll do a little recap of where we are after we've got the latest travel at 10:45. Let's go to Liz.
Hello, Ian. Thank you. The A38 inbound around Bromford Lane is still shut. Emergency repairs are being carried out. It's likely to cause you some delay. There is a short diversion to follow via Bromford Lane and Heartlands Parkway, but that closure is likely to stay in place all over the weekend. It's a bit busy on the A45 around Sheldon and approaching Spitfire Island on the A47 through Tyburn, heading towards the A452. Somebody had a brief prang in Henley on the A3400. That's been quickly cleared out of the way, police tell us. In Stourbridge, flooding is still an issue on Racecourse Lane near to the golf club. The road is open, but obviously be a little bit careful. Traffic is looking okay on the M6 so far as you head north, Villafans, going to Everton for this afternoon's kick-off. No problems on the M62 either, heading on Merseyside. That's all looking okay. If you can update us, call BBC WM95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
This is the voice of Birmingham
and the Black Country. BBC WM
95.6. Entertainment.
Proper news.
Friendly voices.
Local views.
They will walk you to the place that you've got to go. That's how good that advert is.
Stories from your local patch.
Action from your local match.
He's out on the hole. 1-on-1. He's round the goalkeeper. It's 1-0.
Presenters with something to say.
What's all that about? It's madness. Characters from down your way. I know people like you. Not just
a DJ.
Playing boring songs all day.
The Muppets, I think they're just wrong. Anything that involves a frog and a pig, it can't be right.
The Voice. The Voice.
The Voice.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country. BBC WM 95.6.
Hey up. You caught me chomping on a carrot. That carrot was tougher than I was expecting it to be. So I now have a mouthful of carrot. A cup of tea would be lovely, yeah, thanks. No, I'm teasing. 03453 009956. Dogs. Talking about dogs in a few minutes. If you've got big... Why do we have big dogs as pets? And if you've got big dogs and kids, then shame on you. I genuinely believe this. We'll talk about that in a second. But a couple of minutes ago, we had a caller who took his boy boxing from the age of 7. The age of 7. And I can't quite get my head around that. I can't quite work out whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. You don't have to make me a drink. I was teasing. Jen's in Shardem. Morning, Jen.
Morning.
I'm feeling guilty now because I jokingly said I'd like a cup of tea, and the team here, or a cup of coffee, whatever's easiest, the team here at BBC WM 95.6 are frantically rushing around like headless chickens to try and make me a drink, and I feel a little bit guilty.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should lord it over them a bit more. What have you got for me, Jem?
Hi. I took my son. He's in his 20s now, but I took my son kickboxing at 7, and he was joined in the classes with me and his dad. Right.
Why did you take him kickboxing?
Because one, it's good exercise. 2, when you live in rougher areas, kids are being bullied at school, at home. He needed to learn to defend himself.
At 7?
Bullies start at 5, if they have a mind to. And it takes years for you to be able to defend yourself. You just don't go in one class and say, "Oh, I can defend myself." You have to learn it. Discipline.
I think kickboxing, because I remember when I was a little boy, I went to karate lessons for a couple of weeks when I was about 8. I didn't really like it, so I didn't go again until I was 15. And you do often see little karate kids running around, don't you?
Yes.
In the evening in their little white suits going to and from the lessons. And I suppose, and someone will correct me if I've got this wrong, I suppose there is a difference between... It feels to me there's a difference between the Oriental martial arts and boxing. Boxing seems a little bit more aggressive to me. Because boxing's not really self-defence, is it?
Boxing is self-defence. If you can land one blow and knock your opponent out, it's finished, it's done with. Right?
Yeah.
Bullies are huge cowards. And if you can stand in front of them and toe-to-toe, they don't like it.
Jen, thank you very much. I got an interesting email here from Keith. It's a mistake to think fighting with fists, unless purely self-defence, is OK. At least 2 people have died in recent years in the Black Country from single punches. The one chap who threw the punch was genuinely devastated when he learnt that the man had died. 03453 009956.
Penn, Pensnet, Rugeley, Redditch, Rowley Regis.
Have your say across the West Midlands.
BBC WM
95.6.
Well, that's good to know. Now, a dog owner, this is a story in the papers this week. The dog owner is refusing to have her pet put down even after it attacked her 3 times. One of the Bull Mastiff's attacks left Angela Fielder needing emergency surgery to save her hand. Another mauling caused wounds to her face, ear and arm, and that required more than 60 stitches. Despite her injuries, the 39-year-old insists she will not get rid of her 10-stone dog, wow, Boris, and will not even make him wear a muzzle. Are big dogs really worth the risk? Why would you want to keep a big dog as a pet? And if you've got kids, little kiddies... Oh, I've been around people's houses and they've let their little babies and their little kiddies climb all over these massive dogs, and you think, oh, no. Oh, don't worry. Rover wouldn't hurt. You don't know. You don't know. 03453 009956. I'm joined now by Mike Mullen. Mike is the Vice President of the British Rottweilers Association and a dog trainer and behaviourist. He's also the Vice President of the Doberman Club of Great Britain. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
I'm guessing you like dogs then?
Oh, just a little bit, yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, I was brought up with dogs. My father was a dog man. I've owned them for 60-odd years. They're very, very good companions. They're very intelligent. And providing you bring them up properly and you train them properly... they're lovely animals to live with.
What do you think went wrong in this situation? This woman has got a Bull Mastiff and it's attacked her 3 times.
Well, I think this dog has absolutely got no respect for its owner, so that's a major problem. And the other thing that's a worry about that, if he has no respect for its owner, then it's probably not going to have too much respect for any other human being, particularly female. So there's a danger.
Oh. Do dogs go for ladies more than men?
No, it's just no, not necessarily.
Oh.
It's just that obviously the dog doesn't respect her at all.
I see.
And because she's female and not respected, then in the dog's eyes, other females are lower in the pecking order.
Yeah. What can you do
a
as a...
man's voice and attitude and... body stances will tell the dog things are a bit different.
Yes, well, it's true in many aspects of life.
Yeah.
What can you do as an owner to become the master of the dog, to get its respect?
Right. There's two things. I keep Rottweilers and Dobermans, and I have for over 50 years. Every one of my dogs respect me, and I respect every one of my dogs. And I've worked them, I've shown them, I've done obedience, I've done working, security with them. Every dog I've owned for the last certainly 45 years would be capable of tearing me apart if it wanted to, but it's never known that it could. And I'd never let the dog think that I could do it to it either. Mutual respect, but I'm just in charge. But right from day one, whether it's been a dog I bought as a puppy, whether it's been a dog I've bred, or even on occasions, like at the moment I've got a rescue Rottweiler here, a big boy. He had a bad life before he come to me. But I've worked with him, I've trained him, and now he was a bit afraid of the human race, and he could have turned out to be a nasty dog, but now he loves the whole world because I put the work in to training in a positive way.
And how do you do it, Mike? I mean, are you one of those ones that goes for the electric shock collars, or what? Oh, blimey! Oh, he's off. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Oh yeah. Oh, crikey.
Say that again.
He's not. He's disrespecting you, Mike.
No, they don't disrespect me at all.
Why is he barking?
Because there's someone at the door.
Oh, okay. He's disrespecting the postman. Right. What do you go?
Now they shut up because they've been told to.
Oh, right. Good.
As easy as that.
Do you go for those electric shock collars? How do you do
they
it?
Should be banned. They're very dangerous, very negative, and the sort of thing. If you use equipment like that, then eventually you are asking to get a bite. Because you're inflicting pain on the dog, so why wouldn't the dog inflict pain on you?
They are a risk.
The big secret is training your dog.
Yeah.
If the dogs let me know the postman is at the door, I told them be quiet. What they do? Immediately they be quiet.
They are a risk, though, aren't they, Mike? Because you can train a dog as much as you want, but they are still basically an animal. There is still that animal instinct in them.
So are we.
Well, yeah, exactly.
There's more damage done by young fellas in this country than ever by dogs. There's 10 million dogs in this country. 10 million. I've owned dogs, as I said to you, for 63 years now. I've never, ever, ever had one of my dogs bite anybody unless I've told it to when I've been working with it. So it's how you train the dog. It's about time in this country, as the laws were made, that everybody who owns a dog, regardless of the size, the breed, whatever it was, everybody should have to take their dog to dog training classes.
Would you let your dogs play with a toddler or a baby?
Yeah, I've got 7 grandkids.
Oh, Mike.
No, but I'm sitting there beside... They're not one side of the room on the other. We're together. I've got 5-year-old granddaughters who will take my male Rottweiler out into the garden with me, and she'll tell the dog to sit, to stand, to go down, to come.
Oh, Mike, this is
go fetch a ball.
This is making me very, very uncomfortable, Mike.
Well, the dogs that I'm there. You heard the dogs bark at the door. Then, as soon as I said enough, they switched straight.
But
off.
supposing they don't, supposing they're upset, they're angry, supposing one of the kids hurts them by accident, supposing they get stung by a bee, supposing they're going old and senile, if they turn, you can't stop that, can you?
I'm standing beside the kids, so it can't happen. I'm not one end of the garden and the dogs and the kids at the other end of the garden. I'm there with them, side by side.
And I'm sure in all the terribly tragic stories we've heard over the past few years of children that have been attacked by dogs.
Yes, but look at the sort of families that have owned those dogs and what type of dogs they are.
Yeah.
And the way those dogs have been brought up. They're usually cross staffies. Now, nothing against staffies. It's the fact that the people who have crossed those staffies have done it deliberately to get a big, powerful dog with a sharp nature.
A Rottweiler's a big, powerful dog.
Sorry?
Rottweilers are big, powerful dogs as well.
Yeah, but they're clever and brainy and trainable. That's the difference. A Rottweiler will warn you before it bites you.
Mike, hand on heart, you've let your 5-year-old granddaughters, and I'm sure they're beautiful, wonderful girls.
Yep.
You let them play with the Rottweiler in the back garden,
No,
and
they
it
don't
doesn't
play with the dogs. they work the dogs.
OK, they work the dogs.
I'm standing beside...
And it doesn't make you uncomfortable in the slightest?
No, because I'm standing right beside them. I'm standing beside the child while it does it. And those kids will grow up knowing whatever dog they own for the rest of their lives, they will be able to train and bring up properly.
You don't fancy getting a cat, Mike?
No.
Come on, get a cat. Get a nice little cat, sits on your lap, you can stroke it.
There are certainly breeds of dogs that are not particularly good family pets and shouldn't really be bought as family pets. You know,
and Staffy's being one of them.
Is a lovely-looking dog, a very powerful dog, more powerful than a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
A shorter fuse than a Rottweiler, and an Akita will bite without warning for no reason, because they are a Japanese fighting dog.
Mike, I've got to end it there. Fascinating. Mike Mullen is Vice President of the British Rottweilers Association. I've got to say, as a dad, I felt very uncomfortable with what he was saying about his 5-year-old granddaughters. What do you think? Letting your kids play with Rottweilers, work with Rottweilers? I do think if you've got big dogs and you let them hang out with your kids and your toddlers, I think as a parent, maybe you're neglecting your duties slightly. 03453 009956. Big dogs. Do we really need them?
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's bang on 11 o'clock. Let's get the latest news and sport now with Nicole Pullman.
A teenager has been charged with attempted murder after a 17-year-old was stabbed in Handsworth Wood in Birmingham on Thursday. The 14-year-old boy is due to appear at Birmingham magistrates today. The 17-year-old who was injured has now been released from hospital. Meanwhile, West Midlands Police have confirmed that a knife surrender will start this spring. Instead of a one-off knife amnesty, there'll be permanent drop-off points at community centres and public spaces across the West Midlands. Detective Chief Inspector Simon Wallace says they want to get knives off the streets without being alarmist.
We have seen a slight increase over the last 12 months, and it's very hard to put a context around each and every one of those, but I think we have to see that over 10 years the figures have fallen.
West Midlands Fire Service say unless Chinese lanterns are banned, someone will be killed or seriously injured. It's the Chinese New Year celebrations this weekend, but the Fire Service is asking people not to set off these lanterns. Last year, one started the biggest fire there's ever been in the West Midlands. It set light to 100,000 tonnes of plastic when it landed on J Plus Recycling Depot in Smethwick. The government has so far rejected calls for an outright ban, saying there's not enough evidence that they are a major problem. Phil Hales is the Deputy Chief Fire Officer for our region, and he disagrees.
We've done some of our own tests with Chinese lanterns, and the heat in the candle element when they land is around 500 degrees, and if that lands on anything flammable, it will cause a fire. Nobody can control the lanterns once they're in the sky. So our message is people, reconsider, think of another way of enjoying yourself. Please don't use the lanterns.
The Labour leader Ed Miliband has set out plans to change the role of MPs and unions in electing party leaders. He wants to introduce a system of one member, one vote, instead of having an electoral college in which a third of the votes go to the unions. The Canadian singer Justin Bieber has been allowed back into the United States after being questioned for several hours by customs officials who searched his plane for drugs. It's understood the search was carried out after officers said they smelt cannabis. No drugs were found. Bieber, who's 19, was arrested in Florida last week on charges of driving under the influence. Sport and Aston Villa go to Everton full of confidence following their thrilling 4-3 victory over local rivals West Bromwich Albion in midweek. There'll be commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 3 o'clock, with the build-up starting in an hour's time with Daz Hale's early kick-off. Striker Gabby Abonlahor will undergo a late fitness test, having missed the game against the Baggies with a foot injury. Birmingham City will try and record their first home win since the 1st of October as fourth-place Derby County visit St Andrews. There'll be commentary from 3 o'clock on BBC WM DAB in Birmingham. The game comes just 4 days after Blues were given a glimpse of life at the other end of the table in losing 2-1 to the runaway championship leaders Leicester City. The assistant manager Terry McDermott says Derby do share similarities with the Foxes.
They keep the ball, they've got a lot of pace in the team, not as much as Leicester because everywhere you look at there they've got pace. But they are a similar sort of team. They like keeping hold of the ball, they've got some good players individually. But we've played them once before and we give them a game at their place. You know, we drew 1-1 and we need to put that type of performance on again.
Wolves are looking for a fourth win in a row when they play Bradford at Molineux this afternoon. They're third in League One, 2 points outside the automatic promotion places. But Warsaw's match against Coventry City has fallen foul of the wet weather today. An inspection this morning at Sixfield Stadium has deemed the pitch unplayable, so the League One clash has been postponed. The weather staying dry with some sunshine, very windy this afternoon with showers and longer periods of rain towards late afternoon. The top temperature cold, only 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. The showers continuing tonight but dying out overnight when it'll turn cold with the chance of some frost or ice patches and a minimum temperature overnight of 2 Celsius, 36 Fahrenheit. And for tomorrow, another breezy day with sunshine and just the odd shower. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice. The Voice. The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist.
I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee. Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6, here every Saturday morning between 9 and 12. And then Daz is going to take over at midday with early kick-off. Lots to talk about in the last hour. Heroes. Who are your heroes? If you're a working mum, well, you might not be such a good parent. It's not coming from me. But some people think that if you don't stay at home with the kids, well, then you're doing it wrong. We're also taking your calls on dogs. Would you allow a big dog to play with a 5-year-old? That makes me very, very uncomfortable. I do think if you've got big dogs in your house and kids, you're doing something wrong. And also, we're talking about, well, we've gone from talking about knives to self-defence to young children fighting. Lots and lots to cram in between now and 12. If you want to get in touch, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333, start your text WM, or, this is the best way to do it, 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
We were talking about dogs just before the news, so let's go to Marie in Kings Winford. Morning, Marie.
Morning.
What do you think? I got very uncomfortable listening to Mike Mullen there, Vice President of the Rottweilers Association. His 5-year-old granddaughters with Rottweilers.
Well, first of all, I have to say that Mike Mullins is one of my heroes.
Is he really?
Oh, yes.
We're talking about heroes in a bit. Why is he one of your heroes?
Because I had Rottweilers for 13 years. I needed to phone Mike quite regularly for advice. Fabulous. Absolutely.
And he seems like a very nice gentleman. He knows his beans,
he knows
does he?
his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Like I said, I had 2 Rottweilers, a dog and a bitch. The dog was 8 stone plus, and I had 4 children. Like I said, I had them for 13 years. And it's entirely what Mike says. You're the leader of the pack. They know their place. Well, he proved that with the dog barking. As soon as he said, shut up, it's none of your business, they leave it to him because he's top dog.
The thing about dogs, though, Marie, is they are animals.
Oh, they are, yeah.
And you never know when that animal instinct is going to kick in.
Them. No, and you have to be sensible enough to know that you can't entirely trust them. And that's the problem with a lot of these dog attacks is people think, oh, they love me, all this business. They're not. They're animals, you're right.
So you
have to respect them.
How old were your kids? And what did you let your kids do with the dogs?
Walk them, feed them, discipline them. Well, for instance, my big Rottie, he would never walk through a doorway in front of a person. He'd stand and wait because the human was in charge, and that went down to my 6-year-old son. He was a fabulous dog, but it was a lot of training.
Would you have left your Rottie in a room with a baby or a toddler on his own?
No.
You'd always be there?
Yes, of course.
Did the kids climb on him or anything?
Not particularly, because he didn't like it. So, no, you have to respect the animal as well. He was fiercely protective.
Yeah.
But he was a smashing dog. But on the other hand, at the minute, I mean, I probably might phone Mike later on. I've got an English Bull Terrier that I acquired not through my choice. I've had her for 6 years. She was a rescue dog. I've got 7 grandchildren. She knows I've got 7 grandchildren, but she doesn't see them.
She doesn't see them?
No, because when I have the grandchildren round, and even now, she takes herself to a cage when they're coming.
Yeah.
Lock her in a cage, because I just can't trust. She's a lovely dog with adults, but I don't know her past.
You can't trust her?
So I wouldn't leave. No. Well, I don't know, but I'm not going to take the chance. Marie,
thank you for that. It's just hearing stories about young kids with big dogs. My dog would never attack. I know my dog. I've trained it. Those are the words of every dog owner whose dog has attacked someone. My dog would never attack. No. Why do we need big dogs as pets? We don't. They're working dogs. Have them patrolling a yard. Have them working with the police. But as a pet? Let's talk to Sheila very quickly. Sheila, morning, Sheila.
Morning.
What would you like to say?
Basically, give your child confidence, like my sons do to their daughters and their sons.
Yes.
And they've all done a certain amount of self-defence. And the girls are lovely. They occasionally are allowed to practice on the dad.
What's self-defence? They doing boxing, bit of karate?
Aikido.
A little bit of Aikido, very
and
nice.
And things different, self-defence, Aikido. And they've all done gentle judo.
And it makes them more confident, does it, Sheila?
It does. Yeah. Some of them are grown up, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're at uni, and then the others, they're lovely, lovely girls. But it's for their own protection and also self-confidence that the girls and the boys, when they were younger, they could go to the parents. They'd keep themselves out of certain situations, and they knew that.
And they could look after themselves. Sheila, I've got to end it there. I'm sorry to keep it so brief. I hope you feel you got your point across. Call earlier next time, and we can have a longer chat. So thank you very much for your call. The reason I'm moving on, we've got so much to squeeze in between now and 12 o'clock, including who is your hero? Who's your hero? Interesting that someone was saying that Mike, the dog expert, was their hero. Well, Walsall swimmer Ellie Simmons has been polled as the nation's #1 female hero. And the Army veteran Simon Weston has been named as the nation's most heroic figure. I'm joined now by Alice Cartner-Morley, who's Director of Insight at Freud's, which carried out the research. Morning, Alice.
Good morning.
Alice, interesting that a swimmer has been polled as the nation's #1 female hero.
I know, it is interesting. I think, it's not just obviously her swimming ability, but Ellie is just an all-round remarkable woman. And when we think about heroes, clearly courage is an absolutely central part in defining what is a hero. And she's a remarkable woman who's overcome very significant physical challenges to achieve more than the rest of us could really hope to. So I think that goes a long way to explaining why she's won this accolade. But also just her likeability, which clearly shines through. She's, not just remarkable, but very, very likeable too.
And also, Simon, I was surprised to see Simon Weston. Obviously, I grew up in the 80s. I'm fully aware of Simon Weston, who he was, what he achieved. But I'm surprised that he's still that much in the public mind at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think it says a couple of things. I think one of the things that we've kind of noticed at Freud's is a kind of move away in recent years from people just thinking about people in terms of being famous and how much coverage they get. But when we talk about heroes, people really are looking for something a bit more kind of deep and kind of emotional connection from that. And it's not just what he went through all those years ago, but it's what he's done since then. The work that he's done changing other people's lives and bringing attention to how people who look different are treated by society. And I think that's probably played a big part in it as well.
Were there the usual kind of pop star suspects in this poll as well?
There were lots of kind of showbizy celebrity types, Cheryl Cole, Dizzy Rascal, people like that, and they didn't poll as well. But I mean, I think we asked who is your hero, and those people are famous. But when we think about hero, we're probably we're asking for something a bit more kind of deep than that, probably.
Exactly, it does always strike me as odd when people say they're hero. Cheryl Cole, I mean, for goodness sakes, when they're I was in hospital the other day. Those are the real heroes, the people running around trying to save people's lives, the firemen and women, the Cheryl
Absolutely.
Cole is an odd choice, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, and she didn't poll that well, but I mean, I think the one of the things that really struck me is not just Ellie, but lots of Olympians and Paralympians. 5 of the people who were in the top 10, Jessica Ennis, Mo Farah, Ellie and others were all Olympians and Paralympians. And I think that kind of speaks to how important fairness is to the public. The people at the top of this list are people who have made huge personal sacrifices and worked really hard and deserve recognition. I think that kind of reflects the desire amongst the public to see people rewarded in proportion to their contribution. I think there's a frustration about some celebs who are celebrated and rewarded for not very significant contributions, while others work very, very hard, like those public servants that you talk about, for not much return. And I think that's the reason the Olympians and Paralympians like Ellie have struck such a chord, because they embody that sentiment of people who deserve their success and recognition.
Alice, your train's about to go. I shall let you go. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Lovely speaking to you.
Have a good journey. Thank you. Bye-bye. There you go, you see. Well, you can give us a little call or a text. Who are your heroes? I've just got an interesting... Was this a text I had here? Yeah, Dean has texted in 81333, starting his text WM. You have uninformed views about dogs. Staffies are actually recommended to have around small children. What? Not in my house, they're not. And most big dogs are far less aggressive than small dogs. Just because you have a misguided view doesn't make it okay to spout such rubbish. Good show all the same. Thank you, Dean. That's why. Now, I like that. He completely disagrees with me, thinks I'm talking nonsense, but he's enjoying the sparring. Good, Dean. Thank you. I think you're spouting rubbish, if you don't mind me saying so. Staffies are recommended to have around small children. Oh, my goodness. And yes, those those Jack Russells, those Yorkshire Terriers, they are aggressive little so-and-sos. But if a Yorkie bit my kid's leg, I could kick it off quicker than I could kick a Staffy off. And boy, oh boy, if a dog bit any of my children, they would get a kick. They would get a kick until they let go. Don't care how harsh that sounds. 03453 009956 is the telephone number. Right, it's 11:15, BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel with Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Iain. The A38 remains closed inbound at Bromford Lane because of some roadworks, emergency roadworks going on because of subsidence there. The closure could stay in place all weekend, likely to cause you some delay. There is a diversion for you to follow via Bromford Lane and Heartlands Parkway. As you head towards Stourbridge, there's still flooding affecting Racecourse Lane, passing the golf club. It is open, but obviously be a bit careful around there. Traffic otherwise is not looking too bad. Around Sheldon is OK on the A45, and the A47 has picked up nicely approaching Spitfire Island in the Tyburn area. Now, your matchday travel sees Villa off to Everton this afternoon on Merseyside. The M6 moves well, heading north towards the M62 interchange, and the M62 itself is also looking OK. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
Rape is a vicious, wicked crime. Please protect yourself by not getting drunk with the boys.
Mornings with Adrian Goldberg.
If you've got daughters like I have, what do you make of what Irma Kurtz has had to say?
As a woman, I would never willingly put myself in a car with a drunk driver. So why get drunk to the point where you can't defend yourself?
The West Midlands' biggest phone-in.
I blamed myself then. Should I have seen the signs?
You are no more to blame. The only person to blame is the wicked perpetrator.
Adrian Goldberg.
Monday to Friday.
9 till 12.
On BBC WM 95.6.
He's good. You don't need me to tell you that, but he's good. John has emailed me. John, phone me up, please. 03453 009956. He sent me an email, and all it says is, I'm comfortable with this. There's a picture. We click on the picture. Lying on the sofa is... I'm not very good with dogs. An English Bull Terrier? I don't know. I'm not particularly good with dogs. It's a big white dog with a pink nose. Sleeping on the sofa. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, underneath the dog's head is a little boy. What is he, 18 months? He's no older than 2 years. They're both fast asleep. John is comfortable with that. That makes me feel very, very anxious. And I'm sure that dog is lovely. I'm sure that dog is wonderful. But they are animals. You don't know what's going on. If a kiddie treads on a dog's paw, you just might get that instant reaction. That animal instinct might kick in. If the dog's not feeling well, if the dog's getting old, if the dog is whatever, scared, angry, whatever. Once that animal instinct kicks in, you just don't know. My dog would never attack anybody. Everybody says that. And the owners of the dogs who attacked people have said that at some point. John, give us a call. 03453 009956. Millie's in Kingshurst. Morning, Millie.
Oh, hello, Ian.
Oh, this picture of this dog has upset me.
Sorry?
This picture of this dog asleep on this little kiddie has upset me.
I'm afraid it would upset me as well. I'm an avid dog lover. I'm an avid animal lover. And Mike, I've heard Mike many times.
Yep.
Mike knows what he's talking about.
He's our Rottweiler expert.
With his animals.
Yep.
But the majority of people who keep dogs, well, I won't say the majority, but a lot of people don't understand how lethal a dog can be. Now, I think you mentioned large dogs. Well, small dogs can be just as bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I have seen a 3-year-old child lose half of her face through a terrier. Now, this was a family pet. I have a dog. She's a cross Labrador. Now, she loves everybody. But I would not have a toddler or a child in my house and leave that child with the dog at all. Now, we had, when our eldest child was about 4 or 5, we did get a dog. But the dog was never left with the children. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's always that chance, however nice a dog is, a toddler can step on the dog, fall on the dog can react, as you said, an animal, they're animals.
My boys are always poking me in the eyes, shoving things up my nose and hitting me on the bum. Now, if they do that to me, I get angry. If they did that to a dog isn't going to have the self-control to realise it's just children playing and experimenting, and the animal instinct could kick in.
Well, it's an animal, and it's got a dog's brain. It can't reason. It reacts to situations. Recently, I was at a family member's house who had a visitor with 3 strange dogs. My great-grandson, who is 15 months, was allowed to wander around among these dogs until I said something. I became unpopular, but I insisted that the dogs were put in the kitchen away from the child.
Yep.
But I was looked on as though I was causing trouble.
Millie, I appreciate your call. I just think you've got to put your kids first. You've got to put your kids first over your pets, haven't you? More calls on that coming up. 03453 009956. Now, are you a bad mum if you work? A government study has found that 1/3 of working mums want to give up their job to look after their children. I'd love to speak to you this morning. If you have made the decision to stay at home to look after the kids, giving up your job, or if you have to work but you'd rather stay at home. You can't afford to stay. I've often said to my wife, and I mean this, if she earned significantly more than me and enough to cover all the household bills, I would be a stay-at-home dad. Would love to be a stay-at-home dad. It's a tough job. I'd love to do it. But if you are a mum or a dad, I guess mums in particular, if you've made the decision to stay at home, or if you'd like to have stayed at home but you couldn't afford to, 03453 009956. This survey found that millions of mums of young children only go out to work to pay bills, not because they're desperate to get back. Well, earlier on before the show, I spoke to Becky. She's a working mother of 3 from King's Heath in Birmingham, and also Laura Perrins from the campaign group Mothers at Home Matter. She gave up her job as a barrister to be a full-time mum. I began by asking Becky what sort of work she does.
I I'm self-employed, so I'm flexible, very flexible.
Right.
I work from home as well, so I'm not technically, 9 to 5 going out every day. So that's kind of that's my situation. My children are 7, 13, and 16.
Okay.
So I've been self-employed for 6 months now, and I'm only just been able to really do this since they're not so small anymore and a bit more independent.
Well, having a couple of teenagers, I'm sure the 7-year-old still needs quite a lot of attention, but
Absolutely.
teenagers, they can look after themselves, can't they?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. I don't obviously have to take them to school where I do with my 7-year-old, and that's very important for me to be able to do that still, to be able to pick her up from school and take her to school. So I am very flexible with my hours.
What were you doing before you started working at home? Were you working elsewhere, or were you at home with the kids?
I was on income support when I separated 4 years ago, and then I was on job seekers allowance for a year, which is absolute hellish. And there was a lot of pressure on me to find work, but being an artist, it was quite hard for me to sort of, get a 9 to 5 kind of job. So yes, I've kind of been through it all really. But it was, for me, only now I can really sort of focus on this because they are older. When they were little, there was no way I could have even imagined just going out and working. It's just, it's so important to be at home.
This is interesting, isn't it? Because what is more important, do you think? Going out and having a job or staying at home with the kids?
That's a personal question. For me, very much, there isn't a question there. It's raising your children when they're small. Absolutely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is top priority. But then I'm very resourceful and can live on very little money quite healthily, but I didn't have, when I had my children, I didn't have a job to go back to, whereas a lot of people, they're stuck, they have a baby and they're isolated and it's really hard for them. So they do generally, the people I know, if they've come from a job, they do go back to that. And then the child goes in nursery or a childminder. For me, those weren't options. I wasn't interested in nurseries or childminders. I think they're horrible places.
Why do you? That's interesting. You think that nurseries are horrible places? Why?
I just think they're just little institutions of timing. I mean, they are good in some ways. I think they do. Well, they overstimulate children, and everything's done to time and and that's the way they have to work. But I just don't like that. It was so important for me to be at home. And it was difficult, so difficult at times, especially financially. But I did it, and I'm really proud of that, with 3 of them. And they're great teenagers now and kids. But that's just for me. That was just me. I thought it's so important to be at home.
Well, let's speak to Laura. Laura, are you still there?
I am still here, yeah.
Who's that in the background we can hear?
Oh, all of them. Matthew, Annabelle, and the loudest one's my husband.
And how old are the kids?
Matthew is 20 months and Annabelle is 4.
Oh, I say. Good luck.
Yeah.
You're from the campaign group Mothers at Home Matter. What is that exactly?
Well, we want to sign Becky up though, because everything that she said is what we say. What was your question? What do we do? We're basically we're actually primarily, a support group for mums who are at home the majority of the time, or, whoever wants to join us, really. It's not the case that you have to be sort of at home full time. We've lots of mums who work part-time as well. And also, though, obviously, we're a campaigning group in terms of lobbying the government or campaigning to make sure that families who do care at home, aren't excluded, aren't marginalised or, penalised by government policy.
And what are your views on nurseries? Becky was saying they're horrible places. Do you agree?
I don't think she used those words, but I'm not a big fan of nurseries, and especially for very young children. People have to use them, but I think even people who use them try to use them as little as possible. So if you have a child at nursery, you might try and see if they can only do 2 or 3 days, and maybe do 1 day with nana or granddad or dad if possible. I think people who use them try not to use them, for more than 3 days, because the nursery workers are trying their best, but I mean, put it this way, I would struggle looking after even 4, 5, 18-month-olds, and I know they're built for that, and they have more hands. But it's not an easy job, and for the kids, it's a very long day. And people, the kids are in there from early. Some will be in there for 8 to 6. I just think that's very long. It's. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. But certainly we shouldn't be having government policy that sees that as a norm, or certainly sees nursery care as the same as parental care, because it's not.
Isn't there something, Laura, in children seeing both their parents going out to work every day? Isn't that a good example to be setting them?
I think it's a good example if, of course, if one parent is going out to work, or indeed working at home, as Becky does. But remember, if you're doing the caring at home, I mean, you're not sitting on the couch.
No.
Well, I'm certainly not. I very rarely get to drink my tea warm.
Come on, you're sat at home watching Jeremy Kyle and Cash in the Attic all day. We know that.
Yeah. No, we don't even have a TV in our living room. I mean, that's not the case. And the funny thing is, everybody knows that's the case, because a lot of our generation, even though a lot of them are working outside the home, a lot of us also had stay-at-home moms and saw how hard they worked. So it is quite intense. I mean, yes, you can have quieter times, especially when the kids are at school. But even when the kids are at school, there's still a lot. You're running house and home.
Oh, of course.
And looking after husbands, which I don't think is a bad thing if they've got a demanding job. And looking after the kids.
Laura, it's interesting you say that. It sounds like you're very, very comfortable and happy with the traditional stereotypical gender role. And I was just wondering, is that not setting, not necessarily a bad example to daughters in particular, but maybe setting the wrong example? Because women these days, of course, as we know, they can do anything. They can go and be the heads of companies, they can be prime ministers, they can do anything. But you're kind of, it sounds like, reinforcing the stereotypical gender role.
Oh no, you're not. We're not forcing it. Yes, women can do it. Can do everything, and they can, have a high-powered career for 10 years if they want, and if they want to take time out of that. And support their family and care for their family. Yeah. We don't think caring's a bad thing.
No.
We don't think interdependence is a bad thing. But what I don't think is a good thing is ruthless individualism. And I'm not saying that other people, I'm not saying that if you are working, that's your philosophy. But this idea that if family members are depending or caring for each other is suddenly a bad thing, and that we should all be sort of isolated little islands. I don't think that's a good thing.
Becky, it sounds like you're kind of living the mothers at home matter philosophy. You're making your job suit you, and you're able to stay at home with the kids.
Yes. Yeah, I think Laura made some really interesting points, and I think certainly for my grandmother's generation, I mean, things have changed so much since then in so many ways, but they were so proud. They were so proud of raising the family and looking after their husband or whatever. I mean, things have changed, but there is a certain amount of pride for women. It's not about going back at all. We are modern women. We live in modern ways, but we still can have that pride of raising children and being, cooking well for them on a very little budget and sort of getting that foundation right, because it's crucial. If you don't get the foundations right, everything else crumbles later on, And personally for me, I think just being at home, and at home is probably the wrong word in a way. You're not really at home, like Laura said. You don't sit around and do nothing. You're always doing stuff. It's so busy and, proactive. But
it is a full-time job. Listen, I was joking earlier on, raising kids, of course. I got 2 little boys. It's a full-time job, of course it is.
And the thing is, when it goes, when you do it well, people don't really notice, because you just think, there's 2 very well-behaved children sitting in the restaurant. But when it doesn't go well, the government are really quick to blame the parents then. When the kids are running around and they're not doing well at school and as I said, things are going badly, the parents are the first one to blame. But if things turn out well, it seems that now no one should get any credit for that. And the thing is, what Becky is doing, there's so many women now who are trying to, say, set up their own business or go flexi-time or go part-time because they're trying to fit their work in around their family.
Yeah.
But what the government wants is people to try and fit their family around work, you know, where work is the dominating feature. But that's, I mean, you know, that's okay for some people, but for the majority of mums, and that's what that survey showed yesterday, and it was a government-commissioned survey, for the majority of mums, it's the fact that they would like to work to fit around their families, not the other way around.
Well, there you go. That was Becky, who's a working mother of 3 from King's Heath in Birmingham, and Laura Perrins from the campaign group Mothers at Home Matter. Well, what do you think? They both seem very happy. Laura more so to live the stereotypical gender role of the mum at home looking after the kids. Does it not set a good example, especially to daughters, if they see their mum going out to work? They see their mum getting up in the morning, dressing up, going out to work, coming back, being, financially solvent and independent. What do you think? 03453 009956. If you're a working mum, do you regret it? Would you rather be at home with your kids? Or are you working purely out of necessity? Helen, stay there. I'll come to you in a second. Just very quickly to mention, I talked about a picture of a doggy asleep with a kid. A doggy. I meant to say a kiddie. A dog asleep with a kiddie. Do me a favour. We've put it on the website now. If you go and have a little look at the website, you can see it there. OK? So bbc.co.uk/Birmingham. It's on the front page, bbc.co.uk/Birmingham. You've got 25 minutes. Go and have a look at that picture and give me a call. 03453 009956. Keen to get your thoughts on that. It makes me so uncomfortable. It really does. Helen's in Stafford on the subject of working mums. Morning, Helen.
Good morning. You just stole my thunder.
Oh, go on. Why?
Thanks for that.
Oh, what have I done?
Well, I've got 3 daughters and a boy.
Yep.
And I have stayed at home. I had the 4 of them in 6 years.
Oh, and blimey, you weren't messing around, were you?
Didn't have a telly. Sorry. What you just said then about letting your, especially daughters, but not just especially daughters. My son actually thinks my role in life is to have dinner on the table,
right,
socks paired, and his pants in his drawer.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He sees his father going out to work every. We were lucky enough that I could stay at home, financially okay, that we could stay at home, that I could stay at home. But all the children see is Mummy doing this, and Mummy can do all of that and have the dinner ready, and the fire's on when they come home from school and isn't everything. It's like one of those Doris Day films.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't anything like one of those Doris Day films.
Do you not burst into song spontaneously?
No.
No, you don't do that, Helen. You're missing a trick.
I actually do sing on a Sunday afternoon when I'm listening to Bob Raleigh.
There you go.
But as a role model, as a mother, I try and instill in my children that you've got to go to work. My 13-year-old daughter is now working down at the hairdresser's from 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock every Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to say, and then they look at me and go, well, why? What do you do? Because they don't see me going out to work, because my workplace is my home, and they don't see that as a job, and that's what they need to know. They do understand that, you've got to get up, you've got to go out to work, you've got to do all this. But I think if I'd have got, and I do regret it, if I'd have gone back to work a lot earlier, then I think the children would see that women, especially, because it is usually the man who goes out to work, unless you're a single parent and your mum has to go out to work, or a father has to go out to work if he's a single parent, is that it isn't just that the household has to be all nice and everything else, and they don't see that as a paid job, because it isn't a paid job.
But then we speak to someone like our guest Laura Perrins from Mothers at Home Matter, and she seems to be saying that it's more important for you as a woman to be at home with the kids, bonding and shaping them and, pushing them into your, the way you want them to go.
I agree with that completely, but you can do that without being at home all day. When they're tiny, yes,
Yeah.
I do say we should, or one of the parents should stay at home and nurture and culture the children. But I think once they start to get a mind of their own, they have to see that whether it's one parent or both parents, there is a meaning in life. There is a purpose. The other thing I will just backtrack slightly is that I've now been at home 17 years. I've been raising my children. My youngest is 11. Who will employ me? I had a career before I had my children. I have rang so many people. I've been to so many, I'm not saying interviews, but conversations with people. And they've gone, well, what are your skills? What employers don't realise is that if you've got somebody who runs a household with 4 children who do activities till God knows what time, and we're taxi drivers, if you like, we are actually organisers.
Oh, yeah. Listen, a good mum, a household mum, you've got to be organised. Otherwise, the house would be in chaos. It would be filthy and everyone would be starving and there'd be no clean pants for them to wear.
Yeah.
Helen, while I've got you on, can I ask you a question? But this was mentioned briefly. Becky mentioned this in that little piece, and I kind of had a little row with my producer, Joe, about this. What do you think about nurseries? Are they bad places?
I did actually use a nursery, a local nursery. It was a little nursery, and because we live in an area that is quite isolated, and I didn't have any neighbours whatsoever. I lived in a hamlet, if you like, at the time. And we didn't start it as a nursery. We started it as a post-natal group. So we'd get, a few mums together who'd bring their babies over, and we'd have a Tuesday morning of sandwiches and coffee and watching the children grow. Then as they got a little bit older, we found a lovely little nursery who knew everybody. We'd moved house, found a lovely little nursery. My children were so isolated because we were isolated, but I met a group of friends. My children met a group of friends. They were socialised rather than just being with me, playing cards or doing drawing or watching Teletubbies, as it was then. They were socialising, and they do learn skills from that.
But so that's
if you
more.
Go back to, I remember the lady who said in my grandma's day.
Yeah.
I think I've turned into my grandma.
Oh, we're all. I've turned into my mum. So yeah.
Just don't turn into your dad, you'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, quite. I think I'm turning into my father. But you do have to have the socialisation. So if you're just staying at home rather than going down the park, how many kids go down the park now? You have to have socialisation with children because.
But what you're talking about is more of a parent-toddler group as opposed to a nursery where there might be 15, 20, 25 kids in a class, and they sit round and they have stories and they have lemon squash, and then you pick them up at 3:00 in the afternoon. What do you think about those places? Because I think if you get a good one,
I think they're fabulous.
I think if you get a good one and you go and check it out. When we were looking to put our boy in nursery, we went into one. And there was a sign on the doors. You walked into the door. It looked really nice on the outside. You walked into the door, and there's some pictures that they'd drawn, or pictures that they made with sultanas. And there was a caption written by one of the teachers said, Toby has made a picture with raisins. And they'd spelt the word raisins wrong. And I saw that, and I pointed out to my wife, and she said, "Well, we're not going to send our boys here then, because they got that basic thing wrong." But I think if you pick a good one with people who are there because they love children, I think it can do them the world of good.
I think it's social interaction. It's teaching, because they used to have a song at nursery, "Tidy up, pick it up," and it was teaching the children. Okay, they're taught at home. At the end of the day, your toy boxes are all out. Okay, let's come and pick it. And they loved doing it.
Yeah.
It was during it, and it was. I feel that my children, when they did go to nursery, they only went for a few hours a day.
Yeah.
My daughter didn't want to come out.
And that says it all. Helen, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956 is the telephone number. We've got here until midday, then Daz is coming in to do his thing. So if you want to give me a call, we've got a couple of lines free. Now is the best time to give me a call. 03453 009956. Are you a bad mum if you go to work? It was interesting speaking to Laura Perrins from the Mothers at Home Matter. I looked at their website. And she seems adamant that staying at home is the best thing. It's a tough one, isn't it? I remember when my mum got a job when I was about 7 years old. And me and my sister, whoa, what? Mum is getting a job? That's crazy. Mums don't have jobs. Which is the best example to set your children? Which is the best example? Is it to say, look, I'm strong, I'm independent, I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore. What song is that? There's a song. Anyway. And to go out and to work and to earn money. Is that the best example? Or is it staying at home and being with them and looking after them and caring for them and shaping them and nurturing them as young people, helping define their roles and their characters? I do think you need to get kids out mixing with other kids. And mixing with other kids without necessarily you being there, with another adult being there. It teaches them independence, it teaches them confidence, it teaches them sharing, it teaches, there are going to be fights, it teaches them how to avoid fights. I think it's a really important thing. 03453 009956 is the phone number. Alan, I'll come to you after the travel. Stay there, please. I just want to flag up, if you go to bbc.co.uk/Birmingham, click on that, and you will see a little picture that was sent in by a listener. It's a dog asleep. I don't know what dog it is. Can someone have a look and tell me what dog it is? A dog asleep with a little... I thought it was a little boy. It may be a little girl. 18 months, no older than 2 years. Now, first glance, that's a cute picture, isn't it? But then you kind of think, I'm not sure how confident I am that that's a good idea. Dogs are basically feral wild animals that we have domesticated to a certain extent. You can never be completely confident that you're going to know what a dog will do. Have a look at the picture. Let me know what the dog is, please. And let me know your thoughts on it. 03453 009956. Right, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. It's 11:45. Let's get the latest travel now. Here's Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. Slightly better news for the A38 at the junction with Bromford Lane. The inbound side is in the process of being reopened. Certainly they've finished up the emergency repairs to sort out that big hole in the carriageway around there. But they're still sort of lifting the restrictions as we speak. This has only happened in the last sort of 10 minutes or so. So you'll still find traffic's really heavy going around that area of the A38 and indeed Bromford Lane. But as I say, the good news is they have finished the emergency repairs, so the road is in the process of being open. The M6 going south has a lane out for resurfacing work going on by Junction 3. That's causing an awful lot of congestion as you approach the Coventry exit, the A444. Northbound towards Junction 4, the M42 interchange and Coes Hill. We're getting reports of some sort of traffic problem around there. And as you head around Birmingham, there is quite a bit of congestion, certainly around Bordesley Circus, a little bit busy, parts of the A45. We understand on Coventry Road and Holder Road, there's some lane restrictions in place. I don't know if it's some tree cutting or grass cutting going on the central reservation there, but that's starting to look a little bit congested. Your match day travel sees Aston Villa fans heading up the M6 to Merseyside for the Everton game this afternoon. Both the M6 and the M62 are looking okay so far today. It's a good 2-hour journey though, so you might want to think about getting a wriggle on. If you can update us, 08453 002288.
Wriggle it, just the thing I've noticed about you, Liz,
yes.
You are very, very polite.
Always. You have to be.
Well, I don't know if you do have to be, but you are every day. Now it's time for the Thank you very much, Iain. Those is proper manners.
I say thank you to everybody.
Really?
I've been flung up proper.
Well done, good for you. Excellent work.
More Franksy. Lugano keeps his place instead of Macaulay. I cannot believe that. More phone-ins.
And I looked over at Ziggy sitting in that box last night and I was absolutely livid. SK earned his fee for us last season.
More calls.
I don't feel that would have happened if somebody like Mick McCarthy had been in charge. Dean Smith, he's done a fantastic job.
More Villa.
More Wolves. More Blues.
More Saddlers. More Baggies.
Peppy Mellers coming to West Brom.
The West Midlands' biggest football phone-in. Weeknights from 6.
BBC WM 95.6.
If Daz, do you want to pop in and tell us what's happening on your show? Does he want to pop in and give us a little heads up as to what's going to be happening? Come in. I see you wandering. You do a lot of work before your show, don't you?
I was just doing my shopping list online.
Oh, is that what it was?
I thought you were... No.
Oh, wait, which I think you're on. Try that one.
Here we go.
There we go.
I was told I was colourblind once. I tell you what, that news came right out the orange.
Hey! I've already taken the station off air once this morning, so I'm just hovering to make sure everything's okay. What's on your show today? What you got?
Yeah, well, on the early kick-off this afternoon, then from midday, being as it was the transfer window, of course, yesterday, ins, outs, shaking it all about.
Yeah.
In one or two words, sum up how you feel about the business done by your club during the transfer window, and if you can make them broadcastable, even better, because some of the ones on Twitter we can't. So, in one or two words, whoever you support, sum up how you feel about the business done by your club yesterday.
Yeah.
And after what happened in midweek down at Villa Park, today we want to talk about the best and the worst centre halves that you've seen playing for your team over the years as well. It can be as recent or as far back in time as you want, to the best or worst centre halves.
You got a phone call? What's going on?
No, I was just going to show you.
He's whipped his phone out.
Yeah, only because I don't really work on the radio. You're talking about kids and stuff. Look at my little 19-month... First go on the potty the other day, a couple of days ago.
I've been showing a picture of a child doing a poo.
Yeah. That was very proud.
No, as a dad, I know that is a proud moment.
Although when he started then saying potty hat... things got a little bit messy.
And did he go to the potty himself, or was it?
He started telling me he wants one now. You see,
oh, fantastic!
Which is fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't mind. He's 23. No, he's 19 months. And as regards nursery,
yeah.
I mean, I've got an 8-year-old, and then my 19-month-old's just started to go in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
He only goes for about 3 mornings a week.
Yeah.
You mentioned it a few moments ago. I think that it's really important as regards social interaction.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can be in a situation where you just spend most of the time at home with mum or dad, whatever, and then all of a sudden you go to school and you've got to start dealing with classes full of 30 people.
I totally agree.
And so it's and I think they bring each other on a little bit as well with regards...
There'll be some people who say 19 months is too young.
Well, maybe some people may well say that, but it did take him... probably a couple of 3 weeks to settle, and it's horrible the first few times you leave them and they're crying and stuff.
When we took our boy the first time, I can't remember how old he was, but for the first couple of weeks, we had to stay there in the corridor,
right.
and then the teacher would come out and say, he needs to see you again. And we'd go in for a little bit, calm him down, and it was really hard work.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's important to do it at a young age.
Yes. I mean, I think my wife had one of the longest maternity leaves in history anyway, so like 19 months was like... so no, I mean, like, for me, it's you do it when you've got to do it, don't you, really? Yeah. And it's not like he's left there all day, every day. And, you know, some people have to do that, but I'm not judging anybody. But I really do think it's already bringing on his speech.
Yeah.
And again, it's just social interaction.
Totally.
So I personally think that if you can afford it, some people can't afford the childcare.
No, they can't at all.
Then I think that it actually does help with their development long term.
Daz, thank you very much.
He's teaching me words now.
Do you want to see a picture of me on the toilet? I've got one, Simon. Daz, see you later on. Thank you very much. Daz will be on at midday. 03453 009956. If you want to give us a call, we've got another 10 minutes of the show. A couple of lines free. Let's see who has been there. Oh, we lost one. Let's go to Emma in Dudley in that case. Morning, Emma.
Morning.
Emma, what would you like to say?
It was really just to phone in and add sort of my opinion in terms of the childcare.
Go on.
I've got two daughters. My eldest she just turned 3 in October. I work part-time. I'm fortunate that when I'm at work, my mother's available to look after my children for me. But despite that, I've taken the choice as of January to put my eldest daughter into nursery. She goes every morning for 3 hours a morning. And it was really just to say that, from my point of view, looking at her as a 3-year-old and looking at how much she's gained, only being there a month, actually, she's gained tremendously. I can see how she's sort of flourishing as a person already, in her own right, really, in terms of her exercising opinions and making decisions and just confidence in her own yourself, really, with other children. So from my point of view, I actually think nursery is a very good thing, and there are some little problems that we're encountering that I think I'd rather be encountering them now whilst she's only there 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, rather than wait until she's at school and these issues can possibly be a bit bigger.
Emma, would you rather, if everything you had the finances to do it, would you rather be at home as a mum looking after your little girl, or do you think it's important for her to see you going out to work?
It's not that I wouldn't like to be at home with them, and I think I've got a perfect balance. I work 17 hours a week, so I've got a really good balance. But I think for them, I think it's important that they see the example. We live in a society that's very much sort of gender equality, and I think it's important for them to see that I make a valuable contribution to our household, not just my husband. I think it's important for them to see that I still have aspirations, I still chase promotions at work, I'm still looking to further myself career-wise, and I think it's important that they can see that I feel that I'm setting them a positive example and being a positive role model to them, that, you know, they can go out and they can earn money and they can get what they want and they can achieve outside of the realms of being a mother. That's not the only thing a woman exists to be. And I think also for myself, actually, it's empowering for me, because it's somewhere where I'm not mom or I'm not, you know, a wife. I'm Emma in my own right, and I think that empowers me, and I think ultimately that makes me probably a more well-rounded parent, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, Emma. Thank you. Sam has texted in. Sam in Albury. Women only take the bits they want when it comes to equality. You never see them digging roads or emptying dustbins. I'm throwing it out there. Make of it what you will. Alan's in Cottridge. Alan, we've been talking about heroes.
Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Oh, good morning, Alan. It's you, right? Yeah, go on.
I'm talking about heroes. I've got to meet my hero when he opened our school gymnasium.
Well, he opened your school gymnasium, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Who was it?
Pat Roach.
Pat Roach, the wrestler?
Yeah, bomber from Our Wiedersehen.
The fifth star of Our Wiedersehen. But he opened your school gymnasium?
He did.
What
in 1992.
Wow. What did he do? How did he open it? What was the event like?
It was really good. There's loads of local press and all there.
Yeah. If you could, Alan, if you could just take the phone out of your mouth, that would make it a little bit...
I'm on my mobile, Ian.
Well, again, if you could just take your mobile out of your mouth, that would make it a little bit...
Oh, that's me, Cat. You hear me?
Unfortunately, I can, yes.
Yeah, I don't say. He opened our school gymnasium and he gave
right.
an
If you could put the phone... OK, we need to split the difference. Put the phone a little bit nearer to your mouth. Oh, yeah, go on.
He gave an eloquent speech about how fitness was important to a child's education.
Excellent stuff indeed. Thank you very much. Not a clue. Not a clue. Millie. Morning, Millie.
Yo.
Yo, Millie.
Hi, you all right?
Yeah, yo. Bum Rush the show. What have you got for me?
Right. The little girl lying there with a dog.
Yes, the picture of the dog on the website, yes.
That dog protects that little girl.
What?
We got one of them. We have English Bull Terrier like this.
Yeah.
Is he saying?
Yeah.
No, Henry. That's ours, Henry.
What?
He protects this. What happened when you see this dog grew up with a child?
Yes.
Right? And if anyone go near that child, no, the dog will bite you.
The dog would bite you?
Yeah.
Well, that's
if you interfere with
a good example, isn't it?
Yeah, because this dog, you could look at him, yeah?
Yes.
And he's lovely. I love him.
Yeah.
He is lying there with the child.
Millie, get a cat.
I got my cat. You see that photo? My cat is naughty. My cat bites me.
Naughty cat. Get rid of the dog and keep
Henry bites me now. My son got 3 Rottweilers, yeah?
Oh, my goodness.
And they don't interfere with me, they're nice. But, you see, my cat is a vicious cat. Don't like women.
It's the vicious, women-hating cat, Millie, that's the problem, not the 3 Rottweilers. Thank you very much indeed. I'm only keeping it brief, Millie, because I just want to finish up with what we started on this morning. The knife surrender. Not a knife amnesty, a knife surrender in Birmingham. There'll be permanent knife drop-off points. Is it going to reduce crime in West Midlands? Well, I'm joined now by the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner, Bob Jones. Morning, Bob. Oh, you're there. Hello, Bob. Sorry, I had the wrong fader. We've only got you for a couple of minutes. What's your take on this?
Well, it's something that we have listened to young people, and they say this is going to be, as part of a wider strategy, something that could be really effective and impactful in Birmingham in particular, though we're looking at possibly using it wider.
Do we know how it's
so
going to work? How many sites there will be and how long they'll be there for?
Well, we're negotiating. We're pretty sure of 3. We're hoping to have more than that. We'll be running it for at least 6 months, if not longer. But we're very much still negotiating. But we're hoping to launch the week after next, and obviously the launch will be by the young people, people like the youth police and crime commissioners, by the local community, etc. And obviously we'll be making the full announcement of all the locations at that point.
Oh, so it could be happening in a couple of weeks. That's very exciting.
We've penciled in the 12th of February, but obviously there's still a few bits of negotiations to be done, but we're hoping to launch it then.
Do we know, Bob, is there a correlation between knife surrenders or knife amnesties and decreases in knife crime?
Well, it plays a part. It's not the whole of the answer, and there has to be a lot more education, enforcement, and a whole series of strategies. But we believe it does play a part, and where it's in parts of London, they've had thousands of knives put in, which obviously must do something to reduce the risk. And they have seen, as we've seen, with increased education, a significant reduction in total knife crime, but we have seen a significant blip this year, particularly in terms of deaths.
We've had people this morning suggesting that we need to be tougher on knife crime. We had a mum call in whose son was stabbed in the neck and was killed, and the perpetrator only got 4.5 years. And other people suggesting that if you're caught with a knife walking the streets, if you can't justify it as a legitimate work tool, you should get a year in prison. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my understanding is that there is the legislation to be able to do that. Obviously, the courts need to be able to interpret it. But, of course, you do have this particular problem, as there are legitimate reasons for carrying knives around. We're not going to get every kitchen knife off the streets of the West Midlands, and sadly, that has been the weapon that has caused a number of deaths.
But just to I just want to reiterate what we said at the start of the show. This is a minority of criminals. This crime, when it happens, it's terrible that it happens, but people shouldn't be afraid, should they, Bob?
Now, the overall picture is there has been a significant reduction in knife crime, but we sadly have had too many deaths in the recent, particularly in the last year, and particularly in Birmingham. And, of course, each of those deaths is a tragedy that has an impact on that particular person.
Bob, I've got to end it there just because we're out of time. I appreciate your time this morning. West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner Bob Jones. That's it. That's your lot, kids. If you want to get in touch during the week, you can do. You can send me an email, iain.lee, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. Maybe you want to have a comment on what we've been talking about, or maybe you've got a story that you think we should be covering one Saturday morning between 9 and 12. That's it. Daz is up next. Until next week from me, ta-ta.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
So Iain Lee then returns next Saturday morning from 9. On the way next then we begin our big match build-up this afternoon in an early kick-off with myself, Daz Hale. But first, it's time for the news at midday now on BBC.